committee members to please put your yellow committee member card up. I see we have a full gallery here today, so thank you all for joining us. Pursuant to Council Rule 28, the public comment period at committee meetings is limited to items that appear on the committee agenda. All public comment speakers must present proof of Tennessee residency. Up first, we have Zach Young speaking on agenda item number 28, BL 2025-833 in support, followed by Aaron O'Hara Block speaking on the same thing. The next person will be Selena Brooke LaShore, my apologies if I mispronounced your name, followed by Tamika White. All of them will be speaking on the same thing. If there is still time left, we will hear from J. Stacy Elliott. As a reminder, we have a total of 8 minutes. Mr. Young, you are recognized.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Porterfield and members of the committee. My name is Zach Young. I live at 93 French Street and have the honor of serving on the Metro Nashville Board of Public Education. First, I want to thank Chair Porterfield for the long hours and hard work that went into assembling the substitute budget. I know all too well how difficult these decisions can be during the council's budget process. I also understand the position some of you are in when it comes to voting on a budget that asks more of our residents. As many of you know, I once sat in your seat as a council member and even on this committee, wrestling with the same question, whether to support a funding plan that I knew would be unpopular in my district potentially. But as is so often the case, the right thing to do was also the hardest. I ultimately voted for the increase in revenue because it prevented mass layoffs and preserved the services our residents depended on. The vote came at a political cost, but I have never regretted it. Doing what's right, even when it's hard, is always worth it. If you choose not to support Chair Porterfield's budget, you are choosing to eliminate or cut programs and services that are greatly helping students in MNPS. At a time when we are finally seeing meaningful progress in student outcomes, we simply cannot afford to scale back. We need more teachers, not fewer. We need to preserve high-dosage tutoring and summer programs because they are working. We are moving in the right direction, and now is not the time to retreat. Chair Porterfield, thank you again for your leadership. And I urge every member of the council to do what's right for our students and support the chair's substitute budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Aaron O'Hara Block. You are recognized.
Good evening. My name is Aaron O'Hara Block. I live at 908 Halcyon Avenue, and I'm honored as well to serve on the Metro Nashville School Board. I come to you tonight also in support of Councilmember Porterfield's substitute budget. The board and the leadership at MNPS have been so grateful for the unwavering support of this body over the last several years. I'm confident that the funding that you all have provided to MNPS over the last 5 years in particular have made possible the historic gains that we've seen in graduation rates, in student achievement, and in student growth across all academic areas. A lot of people say things like research supports X, Y, or Z, don't give a lot of context, sort of, you hear this all the time, right? The research says we should do this, we should do that. I can tell you, having worked in education research and policy for a long time, and specifically at the Tennessee Department of Education and at Vanderbilt running the Tennessee Education Research Alliance, that even the most recent research from the most skeptical of economists will tell you that more money invested in schools is the right thing to do. But it's not just more money. It's investing money smartly, investing money in the things that matter. And when you all invest in us, we are here to assure you that that's what we're going to do. We're going to work with Dr. Battle and her team and staff to make sure that we're investing in the things that matter. And for the past 2 years, a study on pandemic recovery out of Harvard and Stanford, and you guys have heard this a million times, but has said that we are doing the things that we need to be doing. Our kids have seen gains back to where they were previously, and we will be on a trajectory to move forward, but only if we can continue to get the support that you all have been giving us. I can tell you from having been around for a while, the types of gains that we have seen, the types of recovery that we've had are unprecedented in Nashville. And that, I believe, is based on the fact that we're supporting the research-based activities that Zach just talked about, but in particular, high-impact tutoring, summer learning, school leadership pipelines, high-quality instructional materials, educator pay. These are all things that are in the full budget proposal that you have, and we need you to support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Selena Brooke LaShore. You're recognized.
Good evening. My name is Brooke Leisure, and I am a new educator in Metro Nashville Public Schools. I chose this profession because I believe in the power of education to transform lives. But today, I am deeply concerned, not just for myself, but for my students, my colleagues, and the future of public education in our city. A $54.4 million cut to the MNPS budget is not just a number, it's a direct hit to our classrooms. As a new teacher, I already see how limited resources impact daily learning. We're working with outdated materials, sharing supplies, and often using personal funds to meet basic needs. Cutting the budget further means even larger class sizes, fewer support staff, and fewer opportunities for students to receive the individual attention they deserve. It also sends a message to educators, especially those of us just starting out, that our work isn't valued. At a time when teacher burnout is real and retention is a challenge, slashing funding makes it harder to build a sustainable career in education. We love what we do, but love alone can't fund classrooms or pay the bills. This cut threatens not just the quality of education, but the heart of our community. Our students deserve better. They deserve to learn in safe, well-supported environments with educators who are equipped to help them succeed. Please do not balance the budget on the backs of our kids and teachers. Invest in us, and we will invest in Nashville's future. Please pass the Porterfield substitute and protect public schools. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Our next speaker is Tamika White. Ms. White, you are recognized.
Good evening, members of the Budget Committee and other council members that are joining us today. My name is Tamika White, and I reside in Sean Parker's district. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to express a serious concern around BL 2025-833. With all the uncertainties, especially around federal funding and cuts, will cause real harm to our school system. Reducing the budget puts employees at risk, eliminates the 3% cost of living adjustment, dismantles critical programs, slashes summer job opportunities, and jeopardizes the Promising Scholars Program. These aren't abstract numbers. These are people and programs that directly shape our students. Chair Porterfield has always been a thoughtful leader when it comes to employees and students, as she is a former teacher. I also recognize you heard the call for transparency, which is important, but transparency doesn't mean to come at the cost of slashing essential services. Bringing the axe to education isn't a path forward. I urge committee members to support Chair Porterfield's substitute budget. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And last, we have J. Stacy Elliott. You are recognized.
Greetings, Council. I'm Dr. Stacy Elliott from District 16 and a union organizer for M&EA. Public education is already underfunded federally and through the deliberately inequitable state TISA formula that requires taxpayers in large school districts like Memphis and Nashville to receive disproportionately less from the state while carrying the cost burden of subsidizing education costs for other districts. Any suggestion of reducing or slashing funding from the MNPS budget is a deranged form of self-sabotage. The precious dollars we commit to our public schools are too important for anyone to mess around with or play political games with. Every single dollar earmarked in Metro's budget for public schools is a crucial contribution toward our shared success as a city. The money that goes into the MNPS budget is an investment in both the success of our children and the hardworking and underpaid workforce that teaches, feeds, transports, encourages, cares for, and empowers our children to be the leaders of tomorrow and the stewards of our shared future. Given our educators and support staff and bus drivers and other school workers are already spread too thin and sacrificing more and more in Nashville, a city that is continually pricing out the people who do the essential work of educating our youth and hurts our own future well-being. So instead of harming our children and our future with mindless cuts to the MNPS budget, we expect Metro government to continue to invest in MNPS, and we support Chair Porterfield's budget. However, this topic is raising valid concerns about the consistent lack of budget transparency from MNPS leadership. The solution is increased and improved budget transparency from MNPS leadership, not proposals that blindly undercut, attack, and defund Nashville's children and Nashville's collective future without even knowing what we're cutting from. Our best protections against bad faith, politically motivated budget amendments is having an actual line-by-line budget from MMPS leadership that is publicly reported on an ongoing basis. That means the city needs and deserves school district leadership that is willing to provide clear, straightforward budget reporting that holds the district accountable to its own workers, its own students and families, and accountable to the rest of Metro government. We need this from MMPS leadership on a regular and recurring basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elliott, and thank you for everyone that came out to speak. We will now be moving into our agenda. We currently have 10 members present, so we do have a quorum. So we're going to go ahead and go to the consent agenda. The proposed items for the consent agenda are RS 2025-1296, 1297, 1298, 1299, 1301, 1302, 1303, 1304, 1305, 1306, 1307, 1308, 1309, 1310, 1311, 1312, 1313, 1314, 1315, 1316, and BL 2025-848 and BL 2025-849. Does anyone have anything that they would like removed from the consent agenda? Councilmember Cortez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. RS 2025-1302.
Okay, 1302 will be removed from the consent agenda, and that is agenda item number 10, colleagues. Is there anything else anyone would like removed from the consent agenda? Seeing no one, I will circle back at the end to see if there's something else that you all want to come off. All right, RS 2025-1296, a resolution accepting a financial empowerment cities grant from Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund and a donation from the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Office of Mayor in connection with the establishment of an Office of Financial Empowerment, sponsors Porterfield, West Shore, and Allen. RS 2025-1297, a resolution accepting a financial empowerment center legacy planning implementation grant from the Cities of Financial Empowerment Fund to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Office of the Mayor for the continued support of the Nashville Financial Empowerment Center, sponsors Porterfield, West Shore, and Allen. RS 2025-1298, a resolution accepting a grant from the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services for the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Davidson County Juvenile Court to implement a safe baby court program and evidence-based specialized infant and toddler court that uses the science of early childhood development to meet the urgent needs of infants, toddlers, and their families, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1299, a resolution approving an application for a community correction service grant from the Tennessee Department of Corrections to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the State Trials Court to provide alternative supervision and treatment options to divert felony offenders to the Tennessee prison system, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1301, a resolution accepting and appropriating a donation from the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee in the amount of $13,104.10 to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Human Relations Commission, and authorizing the Metropolitan Human Relations Commission to expend the donated funds to further its duties, responsibilities, and missions, sponsor Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1303, a resolution to extend the deadline for the Contract and Compliance Board to provide recommendations for the scope of safety plans for construction project procurement and contractor payment application requirements to the purchasing agent and the Metropolitan Council, sponsor Porterfield. RS 2025-1304, a resolution to approve the third amendment to the lease agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Nashville Metropolitan LLC for office space at 1281 Murfreesboro Pike, Nashville, Tennessee, sponsor Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1305, a resolution accepting the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for maintenance, repair, operating supplies, industrial supplies, and related products and services for the Department of General Services, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1306, a resolution accepting the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for street sweepers and related equipment for the Department of General Services, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1307, a resolution accepting the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for tree maintenance equipment, attachments, and accessories for the Department of General Services, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1308, a resolution approving Amendment 1 to a viral hepatitis program services grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to implement and coordinate activities and services related to the prevention, testing, diagnosis, surveillance, and linkage to treatment and other support services for individuals infected with viral hepatitis, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1309, a resolution approving Amendment 1 to grant contracts with 3 nonprofit organizations for the provision of free and high-quality out-of-school programs through the Nashville After Zone Alliance, also known as NASA, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1310, a resolution accepting in-kind grant from the Friends of Warner Parks to Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to fund the next phase of improvements in Warner Park, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1311, a resolution accepting an in-kind grant from the Friends of Shelby Park and Bottoms To the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to fund bus rentals for the summer enrichment programs at Kirkpatrick, East and South Inglewood Community Centers to visit Shelby Park and Bottoms, sponsors, CAP, and others. RS 2025-1312, a resolution accepting an in-kind grant from the Friends of Shelby Park and Bottoms to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation for directional signage, informational signage, map kiosks, invasive plant management, and native plant installation, sponsors, CAP, and others. RS 2025-1313, a resolution accepting an in-kind grant from the Middle Tennessee Pony Club to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to fund installation of a grass riding surface at Percy Werner Park, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1314, a resolution accepting a grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Office of Family Safety to fund fatality review team staffing positions to help manage the multidisciplinary needs of his clients, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1315, a resolution approving Amendment 2 to the Victim of Crime Act or VOCA grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to fund additional staffing, enhance services, and service more victims of crime, sponsors Porterfield and others. RS 2025-1316, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department to lodge, compromise, and settle the personal injury claim of Lisa Bunkowski against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $157,165.44, and the said amount to be paid out of the self-insured liability fund, sponsor Porterfield. BL 2025-848, bills that are on second reading. An ordinance approving an agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Nashville Fire Department, Emergency Medical Services Division, and the Ascension St. Thomas EMT training program to provide the Ascension St. Thomas School of EMS students with practical experience in EMS-based patient care activities, sponsored Porterfield and others. And BL 2025-849, ordinance granting Amendment 3 to a contract between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Digatech Computer LLC for fire, medical, emergency billing, and collection services, sponsors Porterfield and others. Is there anything else that anyone would like to pull off the consent agenda? Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Number 24, RS 2025-1316.
Okay, 1316 has been pulled off the consent agenda. Is there anything else that anyone would like to pull off the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? The consent agenda passes 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The first item that we have that is not on the consent agenda is RS 2025-1258, a resolution adopting a new pay plan for the general employees of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, excluding employees of the Board of Health, Board of Education, and the Police and Fire Departments effective July 1, 2025. Sponsors Porterfield and Hill. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Colleagues, we're actually going to do this in a different order. We need to pull the budget up first before we look at the pay plan, because this can be contingent upon that. So we're going to table that, and we're going to do the budget and then come back to that one. And that is on page 17, and that is bills on third reading. This is agenda item number 32, BL 2025-833, a bill to be entitled the Budget Ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee for fiscal year 2026, sponsor Porterfield. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? Is there a second? Oh, I didn't hear the second. My apologies. It has been moved and properly seconded. So I will go ahead and discuss what we have in the chair substitute budget. So if you all will bear with me. We all know that this has been a very tough budget year. For those of you that have been watching and paying attention and kind of going on for this ride, this budget year has been even more tight than last budget year. So it was a year that we were faced with very difficult decisions. I did want to highlight the changes that is in the chair substitute budget. The first change would be a 1% increase to the across-the-board increase. So we formerly called that a COLA. Now we have it as an across-the-board. It's the additional 1% to match the civil service recommendation. So that would bring the 1% up to 2%, again, matching the civil service recommendation. And that was for a total of $8.2 million for that increase. We have an additional $200,000 to social services for a food expansion program. Of that, $175,000 is going directly to social services for food pop-ups and additional assistance, with $25,000 going as an allocation to the branch in Southeast Nashville for emergency food program, and $75,000 to juvenile court for court-appointed special advocates, $60,000 going to a museum study for Nashville's history, $25,000 for Sister Cities program that would allow funding and opportunities for students from a lower socioeconomic status to be able to participate in Sister Cities, $150,000 for NAZA, which is the Nashville After Zone Alliance. So that's through the library, and that is for additional programming and juvenile services, $88,000 to support the Shelby Golf Course. There was a recommendation that the Shelby Golf Course did need some additional FTEs and some additional funds to support the work of those employees. We were able to get it worked out where we only had to fund that at $88,000 to support the overall request, even though that request was for a higher amount. $250,000 to support maternal health and doula programming through the Health Department's Strong Baby Initiative. Many of you all may have seen recently about the very alarming statistics of mortality here in Tennessee with regards to maternal health. So this is looking to do our part to help continue to address that. $75,000 for the Oasis Center emergency youth shelters via the Office of Homeless Services, and $100,000 to explore additional options when it comes to public-private partnerships to address our housing. There's also multiple things in the budget that were requested that we were able to work out without having to give additional funding for. So as I told y'all last year, I like to stretch a dollar. I wouldn't say that I'm cheap, but I will say that I try to be as fiscally conservative as I can. So there were several things that we were able to work in the budget without additional funding, which includes the development of a community-driven safety plan, which is something that we heard from a lot of our constituents that they were requesting. This is something that actually started many years ago under MHRC when Director Melody Fowler-Green was heading up that department. There were public meetings about the development of a community-driven safety plan, and those conversations have continued up to this point. The Health Department actually had funding and the capacity to be able to do that. So I was able to work with some of our community partners as well as the Health Department to ensure that that is able to be addressed without the additional funding. We were also able to work with the Office of Youth Safety. It is funded in the mayor's budget at the same amount as last year, which was the $750,000 for the office and then the $250,000 for the Parks Department. But we were able to work to ensure that the funding from last year, because of the type of account that it was in, that funding will be able to roll over to the next year. So they will have the increased amount, because I know that was something that we heard both on wish list and from the community. We were also able to work in some things where departments were able to absorb some of the requests, such as the Beat of Life program, and from the Sheriff's Department, they were able to absorb that without any additional funding. We were also able to, one of the things that we looked at was Bloom, which was something that we did get requests for through the wish list. Bloom is already receiving funding through the Barnes Fund, and I believe that will be at $750,000. So we did not want to duplicate those efforts. We also looked at There are also a few more colleagues that okay, so here we go. Rebuild Nashville was something that we heard from the wish list that individuals were interested in us addressing. The Rebuild Nashville is already funded under the Unified Housing Strategy, under the anti-displacement efforts. I believe there's more than $1 million for anti-displacement efforts, and Rebuild Nashville will fall under that. There were requests for additional funding for the eviction right to counsel. I did not include that in the substitute because they did have access to a subsidy that they did not take the full amount for the ARP funding. So they didn't take the full amount that was offered to them. So they are trying to be thoughtful in how they are scaling up. And then the Tennessee Justice Center is something that is in the substitute that did not require additional funding, but funding that the health department already has. There will be a portion of that earmarked for the Tennessee Justice Center to help support the individuals in the Napier-Sudicum community that needs additional support with regards to ascertaining health care. So there were several options that we have included in the budget that you don't actually see an additional line item for. I did receive multiple questions from both council members through our work sessions. We were able to discuss this, but also for people in the community. One question that we received repeatedly was, did we look at cuts? And I want to assure you all that I thoroughly looked through cuts, spent countless hours with our finance department looking to see what would the ramification of additional cuts to our departments look like, how much could we potentially cut from our departments, and what would the reduction in services look like with those cuts, and how does that translate into the actual bill and savings from our constituents. So I do want you to know I did also look at additional revenue sources, worked with finance, and had ideas of, can we do this tax or can we do this type of tax? And unfortunately, we were not able to come up with any other viable options. But I do want you all to know that that was something that I thoroughly looked at and tediously looked at, going through line by line, spending many hours up to 3, 4 in the morning, and then coming back to 8 o'clock meetings because I was looking at every single thing. We know that it's not any fun to adjust the tax rate. I believe in the last 25 years, we've only done it 3 times, but because our home values have increased so much, we do understand that even with a reduced tax rate, we understand that people's tax bills will be going up. So again, colleagues, I know that, those are tough conversations with our constituents, but we do have to be honest about where we are as a city while we continue to make decisions to ensure that we're not here going forward. So with that, that is the substitute that I wanted to speak on. I believe we already had a motion and a second, so I will open the floor up for any questions or comments. Seeing none. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Let's do hands. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the chair. Any in opposition? 1, 2. Any not voting? Okay, 7 in favor, 2 against, 0 not voting. I have 10 people counted. Is there somebody that did not vote? Councilmember Spain, how are you voting? I'll turn your mic on. Councilmember Spain, how are you voting?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll vote aye.
Okay, thank you. My apologies. So there are 8 in favor and 2 against for the chair substitute. All right, colleagues, does anyone have any amendments that they would like to move? I see Councilmember Johnston and Councilmember Gadd. We'll go through the substitutes one by one. Councilmember Johnston, are you wanting to move your substitute or are you wanting to move an amendment?
My substitute, please.
Okay, we will discuss the substitute after we go through the amendment, so we'll come back to the substitute. Councilmember Allen.
So if we make amendments to the current substitute and another substitute is offered, do all those amendments automatically go to the new substitute?
Director Darby, you're recognized.
No, if there is and this is really more in line for tomorrow night. Tonight, we'll consider everything, but tomorrow night, if there is a substitute placed on the bill, and then we amend that substitute, and then a second substitute is approved to be on the bill, that second substitute cannot be amended.
Thank you so very much, Director Darby. Thank you, Councilmember Allen. The first amendment that we have is Councilmember Sepulveda. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I believe I need somebody from the committee to move the amendment.
It has been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Sepulveda, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. My amendment would add an additional $50,000 for the MC3 program. We are all pretty familiar with the MC3 program. There was already $50,000 allocated in the mayor's budget and the substitute budget, but there is the potential for that program to lose federal funding, which is why they requested an additional $50,000. Just to give you all some information in regards to this program, it is a pre-apprenticeship program that has a number of people that go through several weeks of training. They train with different building trades, trying to figure out what direction they want to go into. We all know that not everyone ends up going to college, and some people want to explore other career fields. This allows them to go into a trade where they will be trained and paid and receive benefits. Some information in regards to the program: over the course of the program from October of 2019 through March of 2024, they had received a little over 3,000 applications. They've held 17 classes. They have graduated 344 people, and their job placement rate for the graduates is 70.3%. And individuals placed into pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship, and journey level programs is 216. So we know that this program works. It benefits people. It benefits working class people, minority people, women, workers in general. And so with that, I would ask for your support.
Thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Evan Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to my colleague for that background. I'm just, one of the challenging things about this budget season that I've also gotten a lot of questions about, and I'm sure the Chair has too, is the state of federal funding. And it's been very difficult to understand the budget needs of departments in light of the shifting federal landscape. And I'm just curious what type of federal funding they're getting right now.
I don't know if there's anyone here from the program that can answer that, but Councilmember Sepulveda, would you like to take a stab at it?
I know that they receive different types of federal grants. I can get back to you by tomorrow.
That'd be super helpful. I'm curious.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Spain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could someone from Finance just tell us if this will leave sufficient amount available in the contingency subrogation account for whatever its purpose is?
Thank you, Councilmember Spain. I appreciate you for flagging that, because it was my intention to have Finance to be able to speak to each one of these, so thank you. If we could have someone from Finance to speak to it. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Mary Jo Wiggins, Finance. It's not ideal. We don't think that we should be depleting that fund any further, but $50,000 has a limited impact.
Thank you. Any additional questions? And I will have to abstain on this vote, so I'm going on the record saying that I will be abstaining. Can we get the vote? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favor. Any opposed, raise your hand. And anyone not voting. So 3 abstentions, 8 in favor, 0 against, and 3 not voting. The next item is Councilmember Gadd. Councilmember, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. I would move approval of amendment number 2 with a brief comment.
Can we get someone on the committee to move it? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Gadd, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, committee members, for moving and properly seconding this amendment. I truly appreciate that. This is an amendment that I'm bringing forward. Initially, we had understood that it could have already been part of Office of Family Safety's budget, but after confirming with Becky Bullard with the Office of Family Safety and Director Lance on Friday, it came to my attention that this is actually a previous funding in their previous budget, or initial budget with the mayor, was actually pass-through funds that will go to a compliance bond supervisor position. So they can't be utilizing these funds for this particular position, which is a position that would put $112,400 specifically to MNPD in order to fund a detective position in their DV division, a domestic violence investigator position, in order to properly investigate that firearms that are supposed to be dispossessed are actually being dispossessed. For those of us who were a part of Chairwoman Evans' domestic violence hearings last fall, it was alerted to us that one of the gap areas during an order of protection, when we go through, when a victim goes to the courts in order to protect herself or himself or themselves, the offender has to, or the alleged offender has to actually dispose of any firearms by giving those to a third party. Right now, that is not being investigated to determine whether or not those are actually being in the third party home. And because of that, we will often see that those domestic violent offenders, as in every situation, are more likely to offend again, as we saw this weekend, through another death in a DV situation. So after talking with MNPD, Office of Family Safety, and folks over at the DA's office, we came to a conclusion that this is a place to live in MNPD's budget, and so of course they're willing to take it if we're able to fund it. The Office of Family Services has presented a couple of times some best practices, as this is one of those, and with that, this also is taking the money from the self-insured liability account. When I spoke with our legal counsel who drafted the amendment, was assured that this is a negligible amount to that account, so we'll not make the account insolvent, and that's all I got. So I appreciate everyone's consideration, and also welcome to answering questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Gadd. And just for the record, I'm just going to be abstaining on all of these amendments. So I'm trusting you all to do what you all feel is best, but I'll be abstaining on all the amendments today. I did want to confirm what Councilmember Gadd said. It was my intent to make sure that this position was put in the budget, but there are 2 similar positions in a different department. So when we looked at this, we thought that it was the same position, which is why it was not included in the substitute budget. I do also want to flag one thing to be mindful of. We have one amendment that is giving additional funding to a department, and then we have a few amendments that is reducing funding from that same department. So if all of these amendments pass, which I'm not opining on whether they should or shouldn't, I think that they're great amendments. But if they all pass, just keep in mind that, we could potentially be doing a wash. But I will let finance speak to that a little bit more. First, I'm going to go to finance to speak to the legitimacy of the funds, or if this is a viable funding source. And then I see Councilmember Druffel and then Councilmember Evans Siegel. So finance, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to the previous statement, we don't consider it to be negligible. The fund has been depleted in the past, and we would encourage it to not be depleted. But we can't say that this would devastate the reserve amount. The only other thing I want to point out is there are additional costs for the detective to be fully trained and have supplies. So the full cost to the department would be $156. So this does not quite cover that amount.
Thank you, Finance. And then I have Councilmember Druffel, followed by Councilmember Evans Siegel.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to confirm that all the sources of these incomes are okay with the mayor's office or the particular department they're coming from. Just not only this one, but all of them in the past. You sourced them out as the chair, but now these are all new amendments. I just want to make sure that's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just heard Finance opine on whether or not it will be harmful, but you asked specifically for the mayor's office, so I will turn it over to the administration table.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We listen to our experts in finance. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Druffel, would you like to speak again?
No, each one, I guess there'll be the same question. I just want to make sure as this comes through, it's appropriate that the funding source is okay with the mayor's office and that particular department. Just want to make sure that's okay. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just, for each one, Councilmember Druffel, just wave at me if I forget, but I'll make sure to let administration, mayor's office, and the applicable department opine on their position. Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Just, I guess, a quick point and then a question. As far as fully funding the position, I actually appreciate that my colleague didn't fund a full 12 months because, as we typically know, new hires don't start on July 1, and we see a lot of what ultimately ends up being excess funding for positions that have been funded but not yet hired on day one. And so I think the amount to me makes sense, given that there's going to have to be some lag time in hiring. But my question, I think, is really for MMPD, which is one of the issues that we have talked about is that under state law, people can dispossess two ways. They can give it to a friend, they can turn it into us. But when they turn it into us, we actually can't destroy the gun under state law without getting a court order. And they may not have an answer today, but I would like to know if they anticipate that this position will be handling the destruction of any firearms that are voluntarily turned over through the process, because I know that storage can be an issue.
Thank you. And I see Deputy Chief Gilder in the back. Deputy Chief, you're recognized.
Thank you. Chris Gilder, Metro Police Department. It's difficult to say if there would be any increase in the number of firearms to the actual property room. I would imagine there would be some when you're proactively investigating whether or not someone is in violation of the law. The destructions, there's a statute that controls destruction of firearms. So that's really, whether it's a gun that's dispossessed through this process or it's some that, one that somebody finds and when a family member passes and they turn it in, or they come into the property room in a multitude of ways, and crime guns and that sort of thing. So it would be difficult for me to guess, what additional burden that might place. So was that your question, onto the property room as far as disposing of these firearms?
Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. What sort of burden it would place, and would this detective be able to sort of help work maybe with the DA's office on any additional burden?
Yeah, I think given the number of firearms that we deal with already, I don't think this would be overly burdensome for us, given the number of guns that we bring in that are crime guns, every day off the street. I can't imagine that this would, it would be negligible in comparison to that number of firearms that we're collecting every day via arrest and that sort of thing.
You're good. All right. Thank you so very much. Is there anyone else? Councilmember Cortez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I have a quick question for Finance. What is the fund balance currently that we're pulling from?
Fine. What is the fund?
What is the balance of the fund that we'd be pulling from?
What is the balance of the fund that we are pulling from, which is the self-insured liability fund? Finance, you're recognized.
I don't have that, but if I can pull it up quickly, I will. Otherwise, we'll have to get to after the meeting.
Okay. And quick question for the MNPD. The total cost, it sounds like it's going to be 156. Can you absorb that cost to make sure this position is filled?
Deputy Chief Gilder, are you still in the room with us? Okay. Councilmember Gadd, you're recognized.
As we wait on, there he is. Also, Deputy Chief Gilder, there's a question from the member of the committee, and I'll also highlight that the original amount they gave MMPD was able to give for this was the 82,000 plus, but up to 112 was the number that was given. That includes insurance and the different amount of cost. But I think Councilmember Cortez also had a question.
Deputy Chief Gilder, the question was, is this going to cost y'all more than $112,400? And if so, are you able to absorb the difference, or how are y'all planning to rectify that?
Yeah, so the 112,500 was the salary and fringe number that we utilize, and I think Mary Jo correctly pointed out there's some additional costs with training and that sort of thing, but I think the difference between those two numbers is something that we would be able to absorb.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so very much. Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized.
Thank you. I did, I had the balance in the self-insured liability claims as of June 10th is 11.4 million.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Cortez.
At what point does that get really scary? What number, when that's lowered, where do you get really worried?
So
Is that a,
there's an actuarial analysis that actually tells us what that balance should be. And so we always need to make sure that we're at that. It's not something that we see. We don't have an opportunity mid-year to let that go down.
okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You got 9? Okay, 9 in favor. Anyone against? Anyone not voting? All right, 9 in favor, 0 against, 2 not voting. The next amendment is amendment number 3. Councilmember Welsh, would you like to move your amendment?
Yes, Chair, I would like to move my amendment.
Is there someone from committee that can move it? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This is an amendment to move some money out of MNPD to fund Neighbor to Neighbor. Neighbor to Neighbor has been very active in our city for a very long time, doing some really excellent work in terms of supporting neighborhoods and teaching people in neighborhoods how to protect those things that are most important to them. As the city grows, it's very important that we empower our community to be able to advocate for themselves and to identify what is most important to them within their neighborhoods and what they would like to protect. They have expanded their mission over the last year to help people understand what homeownership and increasing wealth within neighborhoods, personal wealth, so people can grow and have personal family wealth through homeownership. They basically, they help people with, see what's broken in their neighborhood, learn how to fix it, see what's possible in their neighborhood, teach them how to achieve that, and make the neighborhoods the best that they can be. And I think they've been a great asset to our city, and I think it's an important thing that we keep funding them because of the work that they do and the positive impacts that they have had on this community over time. So I would ask my colleagues to please support this $75,000 investment in Neighbor to Neighbor so they can keep doing the work that they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. So the standing question for all amendments will be the position of finance, the administration, and the department that is being impacted per Councilmember Druffel's request. So this is a $75,000 appropriation to Neighbor from MNPD. So if we could hear from finance, admin, and then MNPD. Finance, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I would defer to the police department for them to be able to say the 75,000 on their budget.
Thank you. Mr. Rosenberg, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave Rosenberg with the Mayor's Office. MNPD will speak to the impact on the department. I would say that typically nonprofits identify and follow through on deliverables when Metro provides funding. It's our way of understanding where our money is going, and there have been some challenges here in the past. That's not to diminish the work that Neighbor to Neighbor does. We have some incredible nonprofits doing everything from feeding and clothing people, housing people on down. There's just only so much we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg. Deputy Chief Gilder, you're recognized.
Thank you. Oh, on.
You're on.
Okay, thank you. So the effect of a $75,000 reduction in our budget would come from a PO2 position, which is a police officer too. So again, like I stated a minute ago, salary and fringe for a police officer is $112,500. We would have to reduce one position in order to cover the reduction because the vast majority of our budget is salary. So.
Thank you. And that was Deputy Chief Gilder with MNPD for anyone in the viewing audience that may not have caught the uniform. All right, I believe, Councilmember Evan Siegel, I saw you first, so you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I feel a little bit like a broken record. I know that the substitute added, I believe it was 25,000 to neighbor, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And I understand that that is for trips for kids who.
That's sister cities.
Oh, that was sister.
So yeah, neighbor to neighbor is not in the substitute budget.
It's not. Okay. I guess then my question is, what would this grant be used for specifically by neighbor?
Thank you. Councilmember Welsh, would you like to answer that? I know we have someone here from neighbor to neighbor as well. So would you like to answer that or would you like to defer to the person in the audience? Sorry, you're recognized.
I'm happy to defer to the person in the audience if we have someone didn't know someone was here.
Okay.
And then I can throw my 2 cents in.
Okay, thank you. If you could take off one hat and put on your other hat and introduce yourself, ma'am, I appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Tamika White. I serve as the board chair for Neighbor to Neighbor. This budget request is to continue programming and education around, one, revitalizing neighborhoods. There are a lot of things in question with planning and the other department combining the historic division, I believe. And neighbors are really concerned with things like that. They won't be able to protect their neighborhoods. We have also recently created the neighborhood directory. It is available for all council members. A lot of people use it to find leaders of not neighborhood organizations, but neighborhood leaders, their HOAs, and things of that nature. I have been the board chair all of 8 months. We have new leadership at End to End. Our new executive director is Alicia Haddock. I know there is some concern around previous deliverables when it comes to budget requests. I can assure that the deliverables from the last allocation they were completed. And if I need to send that to any of you, I will do so.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Welsh, you're recognized. I'm so sorry, Councilmember Evan Siegel, did that address your question?
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to second what Ms. White said about, I don't think that we can punish this organization that has been doing good work and attempting to do good work because of the lack of ability of a former leader. There is new leadership there who is moving things forward and addressing and has addressed issues that were there in the past. But as Ms. White said, the deliverables were completed under this new leadership. So I think I'd like for us to support new leadership as they move forward and continue these programs because they do have a very positive impact on our neighborhoods and throughout Nashville. And again, I ask my colleagues to support.
Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this? Councilmember Allen and then Councilmember Vogt. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I just clarify if there is a neighborhood position in the mayor's office at this point? Because neighbor to neighbor has been really important in filling that position.
I will go to the administration table. Is there a person that is filling the neighborhood position? Is that?
As the Office of Neighborhoods, I mean, my understanding is that Brittany Irby's been either shared or redirected, or is she still serving as the mayor's Office of Neighborhood person?
She's the director of community and civic engagement, which is a successor in many ways.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogt, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not in the committee. I just want to stand in support of this amendment. I have community members in my district that want to start neighborhood associations, but don't know where to begin. They're very worried about capacity, and I think that an organization like Neighbor to Neighbor would be very helpful to help them through the process. I think we should all want our neighborhoods to have the strength and know how to advocate for their neighborhoods. And I know all of us want to ensure that the quality of life in our neighborhoods, in our district, are as strong as possible. And I believe that the $75,000 would support the programming to help neighbors. So if they want to, form an organization or just be more educated on the process of how to engage in at the local level, it would be very helpful. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Vo. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2. All right, 2 in favor. All of those opposed, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of those not voting, please raise your hand. 2 not voting. The amendment fails. 2 in favor, 6 against, and 2 not voting. The next item is Amendment 4, Councilmember Welsh and Vo. This amendment is for my apologies, y'all. The next one is Amendment number 4, and this is for the Tennessee Justice Center. So my budget gives $60,000. This is for an additional $15,000. So this is reducing the police budget $15,000 and increasing the health budget $15,000. Councilmember Welsh, is it your intent for this to be moved?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for including the Tennessee Justice Center in your substitute budget. The work that they're doing with Napier-Sudicum is incredible. They have helped people overcome barriers to getting SNAP and other benefits that they are entitled to when there are barriers put up by the state and federal and policies coming up from the state. And so the work that they're doing is really key. I'm asking for this additional $15,000 because they are taking a huge federal cut. And though this additional money will not cover all that cut that they're going to, that they're getting from the federal government, it will help to make sure that the position that they have funded that works with Napier-Sudicum can stay funded and they can continue to do the work that they do. I just think it's a little bit of extra support to ease that burden so they can make sure they don't have to cut anything that they are doing with their funding because of the federal budget cuts that they are supporting. So I ask my colleagues to support this additional $15,000 to help them continue to do the work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
I'm going to start hiding when I raise my hand. But I guess I appreciate that this is in the substitute, and I'm just curious, will the $15,000 be administered along with the $60,000, or is it a separate grant?
It would increase it from $60,000 to $75,000.
Okay, so it would just be administered as the same lump sum grant, is that right?
Let's go to finance to be sure.
Yes, when something is a direct appropriation, then it's in the budget when it passes. The next step is then to the department that is assigned to work with these funds, to manage these funds, would agree on the scope of work, and it would all be in one contract. So the whole $75,000 would go for the same scope of work or whatever pieces of scope of work they put in the contract.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anything, anyone else would like to be recognized on this? All right, seeing none, there are 11 of us in the room, everybody. So you can choose to not vote, but if you can just raise your hand if you're a not voting person so that I can count you. We missed somebody on that last vote. So I just want to make sure that we get the numbers right. So all of those in favor, please raise your hand. 1. Okay, 1 person in favor. All of those opposed, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All of those not voting, raise your hand. 3. Now we got 12, y'all. Okay, can we get those against one more time? Can we get the against people one more time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so there are 7 against. So motion fails, 1 in favor, 7 against, and 3 not voting. The next item is Amendment 5, which is the Safe Bar Program. Councilmember Welsh, are you intending to move this amendment?
Yes, Chair, I am intending to move the amendment.
Thank you. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. This is reducing the police department by $87,000 and increasing the appropriation to the Metro Family Safety Department by $87,000 to expand a grant to the Sexual Assault Center Safe Bar Program for community outreach and the development of a mobile app. Councilmember Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. The Safe Bar program is something that the Women's Caucus championed for about a year and a half, and it has been incredibly successful here in Nashville in helping to train people who work in bars and in our entertainment industry downtown, particularly, though it is expanding throughout the city, to recognize dangerous situations and help people who are perhaps at risk of sexual assault downtown. There is a component already in the budget for the Safe Bar program, but it doesn't cover this next step. The program, as it is now designed, is actually a requirement now at the state level that bars need to be participating and training their workers to notice those things that need to be noticed in order to prevent sexual assault and other sexual violence in our bars. And this mobile app would help for community safety in letting people who come to visit our city know which bars are safe bars where they can feel comfortable and know that someone is looking out for them. And if there are problems, there are ways for them to immediately get to address those problems and get some relief. The app is very important to expand this program. So as people I know that I have heard from people who have visited the city that they're hesitant to go into certain places where they have heard there have been problems. And this bar would allow people, this mobile app and the community outreach would allow us to continue the community education, both within our city and for tourists coming into our city, to know that we are taking these potential problems very seriously, and we have a very easy way for them to find a way to feel safe so that they can enjoy the benefits of the city. And so I would ask my colleagues to support the $87,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. Would anyone like to speak to this? All right, Councilmember, you want to be recognized? I'll turn on the mic right there. You are at East Licks. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair, for recognizing me. I know I'm on the committee. As Chair of the Women's Caucus, I support funding Safe Bar, not that funding source. I had spoken with Ms. Zeitlin earlier today regarding late file amendments, and she had said if we had some by 2 o'clock tomorrow, that was a possibility. And I don't know if I've missed any messaging before this started, but we've been funding Safe Bar now for the last...
You can keep going, Councilmember. I'll give them the opportunity to correct that.
Okay. So we have, as a body, have been funding Safe Bar for the last 3 years. It is because of our efforts, along with Sexual Assault Center, and Lorraine McGuire, who's been heading that program for the Sexual Assault Center, that this program is now a requirement by the state in order for establishments to get their liquor license from the state. So, I was speaking with Ms. McGuire regarding this, but this program, this year would be our last year that we would be participating to support them. There are other organizations locally that can pick this ball up and run it down the field. We've done a really great job, but I think it would be a really bad idea for us to drop it right now. I understand this is a tight budget. We've got some programs that are getting too much money right now in this budget. So if there's an opportunity for us to continue to serve programs where it's working and we see evidence that our work is working, I think we should do that. It's probably not going to fly with the police department, but if there's a way that we can do that another way, I would like that.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. Director Darby, could you speak to that, please?
When you say that, do you mean the comment about the amendment?
The comment about a late file item making it by 2 p.m. tomorrow. My apologies for not clarifying.
So amendments to the budget ordinance have to come through the Budget and Finance Committee prior to being considered on the floor. So if it's not here today, it will not be considered tomorrow. Late filed resolutions, ordinances, what have you, could come up tomorrow, just as any other meeting would be, where it would be allowed.
So to clarify, in general, late file items can come up tomorrow. However, there are no late file budget items that can come up because it would have had to have come before this committee today. Is that correct, Director Darby?
That's correct. Rule 39 requires that items come before the Budget and Finance Committee for consideration prior to being considered on the floor.
Thank you so very much, Director Darby. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So then I want to ask a crazy question. If in recognizing this amendment isn't going to pass, taking money from the police department, we all know that. So is there an opportunity here, being here right now, if it has to be a budget and finance, to consider an amendment for this funding for this program from another funding source that I could think of right off the top of my head to be added to this agenda? I would hate for us to not support a program that has gotten so much attention just this year for the work that we've done and drop the ball.
Thank you so very much. Vice Chair Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And I should know this, but it's been a very busy day. There's funding for Safe Bar already.
Yes, the current funding is at, one moment, I have that information here. Is it, I'm going to kick that over to finance. Okay, finance, you're recognized.
There's currently 175 in the budget.
Thank you. So it is currently being funded at $175,000. Vice Chair Toombs?
And Chair, do we know what the total ask was for the program?
I'm going to kick that back over to the administration table. Oh, my apologies. We have someone in the back. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. My name is LaToya Townsend. I am the Deputy Director of Development for the Metro Office of Family Safety. Thank you, everyone, for your support. I just want to add a clarifying point about the Safe Bar program. So it is not currently, they do receive $175,000 in direct appropriation through our department. However, that full $175,000 is not for the Safe Bar program. It's only the $75,000. The $100,000 goes toward therapy services for victims of sexual assault. So the Sexual Assault Center has been a consistent recipient of direct appropriations, and the Women's Caucus definitely advocated to increase that appropriation to account for the Safe Bar program. So I just want to make it clear that the Safe Bar program itself is not currently receiving $175,000.
What was the total ask for the Safe Bar program?
I will defer back to the chair because that ask didn't come through our department. We did request an increase to that direct appropriation for SAC. If you get
Yes, that's the question that we're asking you.
Okay, thank you. All right. One moment. So we asked for an additional $50,000. However, through our department's ask, we asked for funding for an additional therapist. The funding for Safe Bar was not through us. We're in support of it, certainly, but just logistically wise, I want to be clear what our department's ask was.
Thank you. So you all asked for additional therapists, not for $75,000 for an app. You would support it, but that's not what you asked for.
Right. And again, this is like they didn't have to go through us to ask for this. So it's not we're not considering it an either or. It's just, I wanted to be clear on the logistics there.
Okay, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Toombs, did you have anything additional?
So the couple of things. One, wanting to know if the 87,000 additional over the 75 came from the Safe Bar folks. And then I know Councilwoman Welsh went over what it pays for, but I'm not clear. Is it just for an app or are there other things included in that 87?
Thank you so very much, Councilor Styles. I see your hand. I will recognize you in just one moment. I see several people in the queue, so I will come back in a moment. Councilmember Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you. That would go for the development of the app and community outreach. And the money that is currently in the budget is not covering the app and the additional community outreach. That's for a different part of the Safe Bar program that is coming through the Office of Family Safety. So that $75,000 would be specifically for the app and for more community outreach.
Thank you so very much. Did that answer your question, Vice Chair Toombs?
And just to clarify, that was requested by the folks who run the Safe Bar program.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I saw Councilmember Nash, and then I saw Councilmember Styles. Councilmember Nash, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I was curious, does the Safe Bar program charge for training? Is that a possibility for them to offset some of their costs?
Do we have the representative from Office of Family Safety? Can you answer that?
Hello again. LaToya Townsend with the Office of Family Safety. Currently, I don't believe the Sexual Assault Center charges for that training, as the interest is to get more and more bars voluntarily signing up to have their staff trained. So I do know initially when they launched the program, they didn't want any deterrence to people signing up. With that being said, I cannot speak on behalf of the Sexual Assault Center in terms of what they plan to do later on.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Nash, did you want to be recognized again?
Yes, just a moment. I think now that it's being mandated by the state, it's certainly fair that the Sexual Assault Center be allowed to charge at least a nominal fee to help cover their costs, something I think they should think about for funding.
Thank you. Councilmember Styles, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. In response to Councilmember Nash's program, I know that part of this funding we've given in the past has gone to get more people to be able to do the trainings. As I was saying before, this is the last year that we would be supporting them, because part of the efforts that are taking place is to get additional partners to fund a lot of this Safe Bar program.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. One moment, please. My apologies, y'all. Director McDonough, would you like to speak to this as well? My apologies, I didn't see you far back there. So if you could speak to it, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ben McDonough with the Office of Nightlife and the Metro Beer Board. And just wanted to inform the council that, first of all, the Sexual Assault Center and the Safe Bar program is not allowed to charge for training because of the funding purposes. They're not allowed to charge for the training. But also, we had initially through the Office of Nightlife and Beer Board had requested about $47,000, I believe, in funding for supplies such as drug detection coasters and also drink covers for the Sexual Assault Center and Safe Bar program. And we were able to facilitate a discussion with and support from the Metro Health Department to provide funding for those supplies. So we withdrew that funding in that case. And so moving forward, we're happy to also facilitate a discussion between the Health Department and the Sexual Assault Center for additional funding if that would make the council feel better about the funding.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. In light of Councilwoman Styles' comment that this would be the last time that Safe Bar is asking for funding, unless I misunderstood that statement, but that's what I thought she said. Can we hear from Deputy Chief Gilder? And I know he's going to say it's going to be a hardship, but it's $87,000. Would it be possible, considering the nature of this program, for MMPD to try to absorb the cost?
Director Gilder, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. Chris Gilder, Metro Police Department. Given the nature of our budget, salary versus non-salary, the source that we've identified because of the size of it being $87,000 would be a police officer position, a full-time FTE. So that's where the funding would have to come from.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Gilder. Councilmember Toombs, would you like to be recognized again? Oh, my apologies.
Thank you, Chair. I just think it is a worthwhile investment. The program has been successful. I know, given the nature of our rules and, how filing amendments works, this is the only opportunity that we have to fund this program and to help them get this app and do the community outreach. And I know MMPD, like other departments, use salary savings every year. And I know things are tight. I get that. But this is $87,000 out of a $300+ million budget. And I would ask, well, it's got to pass council, but I would hope that MMPD would be a good partner and try to absorb that cost for this upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you, Vice Chair Toombs. Would anyone else like to be recognized? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3 in favor. All of those opposed, please raise your hand.
Going up, this is simply going to be adding to the homelessness and adding to the displacement in our city if we don't fund this. The Legal Aid Society is also rolling over some money this time, but also not enough for them to be able to sustainably expand. And this is a program that very desperately needs to be expanding because of what is happening on the ground with evictions in Nashville and with housing. We are investing a lot of money in different areas to prevent displacement, and this is just another tool in the toolbox, and it's a very, very important tool in the toolbox so that we can protect our citizens from finding themselves homeless and not being able to fight illegal evictions or be treated fairly in the eviction process if they are going to be evicted. When we have landlords not honoring leases, particularly with our undocumented population right now, the sense that they can simply tell people, I'm breaking the lease because you're undocumented, I stick ICE on you. So I think that this is a very, very important program, and I think that given that the police department had got a $24 million increase in their budget this year, when other departments didn't get anything to measure it with that. I think it just once again goes to show how we are prioritizing only one aspect of public safety. So I would ask my colleagues to support this so that this program can grow and continue to help our citizens. I can tell you that the people on the ground are getting burnt out for the sheer amount of work they have to do right now with people getting evicted. So I would ask my colleagues to support this. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Can we, Ms. Wiggins, could you speak to, Councilmember Welch just said that this is the first time that the program is hearing that they didn't pull down all their funds. Can you speak to that, please? And then next in queue, I saw Vice Chair Toombs. Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. What Chair Porterfield is referring to is we did, there was originally the mayor's office wanted to support another year of the program. It has been funded through the ARP funds for the last 3 years in partnership with the Hispanic Bar and Legal Aid Society. And when we identified the additional ARP funds that could be made available, we asked the departments for their spending plan budgets. They had $2.6 million available. I'm sorry, $2.4 million available, and the combined total came back at $2.2 million. That did not surprise as we were reviewing the last 3 years, they did not actually use all of the funds that were available in FY '25. They had some additional funds that, as we get towards the end of this budget year, that they decided to use for more rent assistance, which of course makes great sense. The best way to prevent evictions is to actually provide the rent assistance. But, I reached out to, I think you all heard from the executive director, Darkenia Waller, was here. There is absolutely a need. We're not saying there's not a need. I don't mean to imply that. I'm just sharing that when funds were available, they didn't utilize them all. And I believe the intent was to very thoughtfully and carefully expand the program. We had a lot of ARP funds that went to nonprofits, and they were not able to launch programs as big and as large at the scale that they thought they could. It's a big lift, and it takes time. And I think that I give Legal Aid Society a lot of credit. They've been a great partner along with Hispanic Bar. The first year was Connexion. They have done a fantastic job. They've been very good partners with timely reporting and good reporting and accurate measures. But I think there's a very concerted effort to grow the program thoughtfully to the right scale and also to what can be carried forward year to year. You also can't create a cliff that cannot be met in a future year. And I think that that's something else that was going through their minds as they request funds to make sure that it cannot be a complete 100% public partnership. It has to be public-private, and that we need to have the right scale so that we don't create cliffs for these nonprofits that then have to stop programs that are needed.
Thank you so very much. Vice Chair Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From my recollection of the total MMPD request, budget modification request, is that they requested nearly $60 million in additional funding and received about 22 under the mayor's proposed budget. So they didn't even get half of what they actually requested. So we are not giving them everything that they asked for. I know that's constantly a narrative, but it is not true. I was for the $87,000 for the Safe Bar because I feel like Safe Bar is really sexual assault is really a public safety issue. This level of cut to a department, I think is extreme. Deputy Chief Gilder said that $87,000 was roughly a one officer position. So the amount of money for this one, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but I did the math, is about 78 or so positions. So to cut like that without regard to the impact to precincts and the communities that they serve, I know that I do hear from my constituents regarding wanting additional police presence and more investments in police. I also have constituents that support, alternatives to policing, which I do as well. But to make this kind of cut without any plan in place as to what that looks like and what the impact is to the communities that MMPD serves, I don't think is the responsible thing to do, so I won't be in support of this amendment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Toombs. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, 0 in favor. All those in opposition, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We only have 10 now. Okay, and 1 not voting. So motion fails, 0 in favor, 9 against, and 1 not voting. The next item is Council Member Allen. This is an additional $3 million appropriated to the Barnes Fund, and that is coming by reducing the Healthy Nashville account by $500,000, reducing the correctional healthcare account by $1 million, reducing property loss by $500,000, reducing the human services study public-private account by $500,000, reducing the police department by $500,000. Councilmember Allen, is it your intent to move this amendment?
Madam Chair, I would like to be able to make a statement. I'm actually probably going to ultimately withdraw it, but if I need to move it to get to talk about it,
you can speak on it.
Me. Okay, then I would just like to I'm not sure what I'm doing with the.
Withdraw with a brief
I'm
statement.
doing something with the brief statement, exactly. So I just want to say 120 people spoke at the public hearing, and the top 3 topics we heard about were paying our people well and public safety, not public safety, paying our people well, and housing and the youth safety program. And I just think it's important for us to make the statement to those people that we heard them, we understand that there's a great unified housing strategy in place, but the Barnes Fund has been one of the 2 most effective things that we've done in terms of building affordable housing. It leverages Metro's money 9-to-1. We've built 6,000 units over the past couple of years. Having that funding in place on the front end allows our builders to access other low-cost funding. It's a really important first piece. And to have to decrease it from the 20 million that Metro put into it last year out of a total of 45 million. Tremendous things were done with that funding last year, and to only have 16 million this year is a significant drop that has the potential to help us or to force us into a position of losing some of the capacity in terms of providers that we've worked so hard to build. So I am hopeful that we can find other ways to fund that. And one of those dropped in our lap at the end of the last meeting. There was $3 million in ARP funding that is being sent back. And I understand that that can be redirected to programs that are already in the pipeline because it was sent back because of time limits, and there are things that are already in there that will enable us to shift some money. So that $3 million, I take it as a sign, just dropped in our lap. So I will not take it from these imperfect sources. I spent all weekend knowing that you had found every cushion, every coin in the couch cushions already, but I wanted to do my best to try to find some way to add some funding to the Barnes Fund. I knew that these were imperfect, and I've gotten several calls today telling me that not only are they imperfect, we just can't do them. And I respect that. So, but I just think it's too important to not at least acknowledge that we need to do everything we can to support everything in the unified housing strategy, but this in particular. So I'm going to continue to look for more funding. I am thankful for the $3 million, and I don't know what legislatively we'll need to do to ensure that that goes back to housing. But I would ask my colleagues to join me in searching for innovative ways to try to do whatever we can to get more funding into the Barnes Fund this coming year, even as we support the other initiatives in the unified housing strategy. Thank you for letting me make that statement, and I will not offer that amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. So to be clear for anyone in the viewing audience that may be watching, $3 million became available because it's something else that fell through with the Barnes Fund. So that $3 million will be able to go back to the Barnes Fund. So it is still increasing by $3 million. We're just not having to do that through legislation. And for anyone who may be wondering, why not do this $3 million and that $3 million, there were problems with these funding sources. So we would not be able to move forward with these particular funding sources. All right, moving on to our last amendment, that is amendment number 8, and that is $25,000 for neighbor to neighbor, and that will be coming from judgment and losses. Vice Chair Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I kind of struggled a little bit because I didn't want to file any amendments, but when I saw that Neighbor to Neighbor had not made it, I did want to offer up an amendment so they can get some funding. I understand that there were some issues with deliverables in the past, but they have a new executive director, Ms. Alicia Haddock, as well as a new board chair. And I know there's been a lot of cleanup as they've taken over leadership of the organization. Neighbor to Neighbor has been very important to the community. This is my 6th budget season, and there's still folks who in the community who, don't feel like they're empowered. And Neighbor to Neighbor is an organization that empowers our residents to advocate for their communities and to decide what is best for their communities. And so I felt like there would be, that it was appropriate to at least give them $25,000. And I chose judgments and losses. I read the actuarial report. It was very interesting reading. But I know that finance is, going to be against any type of even the slightest cut. But I think that the last numbers I got, there's about 15 million in judgments and losses. That may not be the same now, but we're putting 16 million in. And I know that puts us in a good spot from an actuarial standpoint, but I don't think that shaving off 25,000 for such an important organization should be that detrimental to our budget and our financial status as a city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Toombs. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this? Councilmember Ellis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee. Now that we have Executive Director Alicia Haddock that came in, would you allow her, Madam Chair, to speak to some of the issues with deliverables that have came up before to hopefully change the minds of those that are not in support of additional funding for Neighbor to Neighbor?
Thank you, Councilmember Ellis. Director Haddock, would you like to be recognized? If you could introduce yourself, please.
All right. Good evening. I am Alicia Haddock, Executive Director of Neighbor to Neighbor. And first of all, I want to say thank you for even thinking about Neighbor to Neighbor in such a way. We have a 30-year history. And we have done some great things in the city, but I understand, when there's a leadership change and a leadership shift, things happen, right? Things are exposed, and I think we have been doing a pretty good job at making sure that, those deliverables that we had issues with, that was yesterday, right? Today is a new day. Today is a new day, not only at Neighbor to Neighbor, but in terms of relationships being renewed, us being present in the community like we have never been before. So we have 5 new pillars that we are building on. And the first one is economic wealth and empowerment, right? So we are approaching Nashville in a very holistic way where, we are concerned about connected communities and making sure that there's healing in communities that have been harmed, right? None of us were a part of these things, but we want to be a part of the solution. And so that's what we're doing right now. We are being a part of the solution in terms of Nashville neighborhoods not being ignored, us centering the voices of those in our neighborhoods, no matter if we agree with their opinion or not. We want to make sure that people are heard and that those issues that come up in our neighborhoods, that they're addressed and they're addressed appropriately, no matter where you live. So we are working really, really hard to restore our trust in the community, but also just further those relationships we've already made. And so from Bordeaux to Antioch, Neighbor to Neighbor is walking beside each and every neighbor in Nashville.
Thank you, Director Haddock. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Webb, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I support this. Just here recently, I had firsthand experience with Neighbor to Neighbor. Me and Jennifer Gamble did a senior well thing in Madison for the Senior Care Center, and we talked about Medicare, Medicaid, helped tons of older people work through the process and stuff. And it was a phenomenal thing. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Webb. Is there anyone else that would like to be recognized? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And all those opposed, please raise your hand. 0 opposed, and all of those not voting, please raise your hand. 2 not voting. And for the people that may have joined us that were not here at the beginning, as chair, I am abstaining on all abstentions. So I'm abstaining on all amendments, excuse me. So this is in no regards against Neighbor to Neighbor. I know y'all came in after I made that announcement, so I just want to make sure that it's very clear for the record that I abstained on every amendment that came before us. Okay, so now we are going to move forward. We're going to move forward. So that amendment did pass, 8 in favor, 0 against, 2 not voting. It is my understanding that we have a council member that would like to do a late file amendment. Councilmember Stiles, are you wanting someone to move your amendment? Okay. Do y'all know what y'all moving? Can somebody say it for the viewing audience what we're moving? Because we don't have anything in front of us. So Councilmember Johnston, would you like to move it?
Yep.
Sorry. So this amendment is appropriating $20,000 to the Pet Community Center to fund spay and neuter services by reducing the self-insured liability account for the same amount.
Okay, thank you so very much. Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Styles, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. There's one more coming, so there's another guest for people to have. So we have a real problem here in Davidson County with spay and neuter services, and our facility, we're at capacity for everything. We are not able to do enough surgeries daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Pet Community Center last year, we gave them $20,000, and they added additional days that were just for helping us out with spay and neuter services. So that's what this $20,000 will go towards, keeping that going while we are working on our new facility, which, yay, made it in the top 3 of the CIB.
Is that it, Councilmember Styles?
That's it, but I'd love people to, approve it.
Okay, thank you. I see
Oh,
Councilmember.
and self-insured and judgments where it come from.
So it's coming from self-insured and judgment and losses. Councilmember,
I'm sorry, forgive me, that's my other one. This one is just coming from self-insured, forgive me.
thank you. Councilmember Druffel, you're recognized, and then we'll go to Councilmember Coopman. Councilmember Druffel, you're recognized.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It goes back to the original question, just to make sure that we are okay with the funding source account.
Thank you so very much. Finance, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to remind the council that you've already passed one amendment that took $112,400 out of the self-insured liability account. So beside that already being at what we believe needed to be, it's already been reduced to $112,400. That's the only other change you've made to that fund this evening.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Druffel, did that answer your question, or did you need something more specific?
I guess, are you comfortable then moving another $20,000 out of the self-liability fund?
Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized.
We weren't exactly comfortable with the first $112,400.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Coopman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee. I just want to support this amendment. Impressively late filed during the meeting. I've never seen that before. We saw what the program did. We saw what the funding allocation did for this last year. And as someone who's worked in animal rescue for over a decade, I've seen firsthand how difficult it is when you rescue an animal and it takes months to get that spay-neuter appointment. So it is something that I'd be supporting.
Thank you, Councilmember Coopman. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? All right. Seeing none, let me write this in. So this will be the late filed Amendment 1. And this is for the spay and neuter. All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, 0 opposed. All those not voting, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So motion passes, 6 in favor, 0 against, and 4 not voting. We have another late filed amendment. Would someone like to move it? Councilmember Evan Siegel.
I'd move the late filed amendment, which takes $43,500 from the self-insured liability fund and $43,500 from judgments and losses to fund Safe Bar, an additional $87,000 through the Metro Family Safety Office.
Thank you so very much. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. We've already discussed the need for the money. Is there anyone who would like to discuss the funding sources? Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So we've got, for the self-insured, we've got the 112 for the 20 from the previous amendment, and then another 43. What did we say was the total amount in self-insured?
Ms. Wiggins, you are recognized.
It's currently at 11.4 million.
And did I don't have any numbers in front of me, the substitute, did it take anything from self-insured? The chair substitute?
It did not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. All of those opposed, please raise your hand. 0 opposed. All those not voting, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are we down to not? You were a yes, Councilmember? Okay, so it looks like 6. Let's do that one more time to be safe, everybody. If you are in support, please raise your hand. Quinn just walked out, but Quinn was in support, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Am I able to count Evan Siegel because she's out of the room? Okay. 5 possibly. Well, I'll wait till she gets back in the room. While we're waiting on that, if you are in opposition, raise your hand. If you are not voting, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 not voting, 0 in opposition, and 5, maybe 6 in support. We'll wait for Councilmember Evan Siegel for the next 30 seconds. She's not in here. So 5 in support, 0 not voting, and 4 in opposition. All right, you said what? I'm sorry, 5 in favor, 0 in opposition, and 4 not voting. Sorry, y'all, it's been a long 2 months. All right, Councilmember Johnston, would you like to be recognized? Excuse me, is it your intent to move your substitute?
Yes, ma'am, please.
All right, Councilmember Johnston will be recognized to move her substitute. Is there a second? All right, it has been moved and properly seconded. The substitute, and Councilmember Johnson obviously will have the opportunity to speak to it, but the substitute, in essence, is increasing the employee pay, the across the board from 1% to 1.5%. It is reducing the overall revenue. Councilmember Johnson, I'm just going to let you speak to it instead of reading all of these because you're recognized, Councilmember.
Thank you so much. So when we came into this budget season, we knew there was going to be a tax increase. I think when we saw 26% for the combined rate and 39% for those that are in the GSD, a lot of our eyes popped out of our head. And so there was a need, I think, for an alternative that did not raise the tax levy as much as the mayor's or the chair's substitute is going to. And so this is what this looks like. The overall reduction is 16.8 cents, which is a 28% reduction from the mayor's increase. It still reflects a 19% increase in tax revenue, though. In order to reduce the tax levy, you have to reduce spending. No departments were cut. Not one department was cut. A cut is a reduction in last year's funding. There were reductions to the proposed increases for pretty much every single department. As Councilmember Welch said earlier, there is no department that is sacrosanct as far as their funding. I know that the mayor have giveth, and this seeks to possibly take away, but no services will be reduced if this substitute passes. Will the massive increases in spending be mitigated? Yes, there will be. Schools specifically, it's against the law for us to not maintain funding from the previous year. This substitute adds another $77.55 million to MNPS's budget. The council nor the mayor has any control over how they spend that money. It was not my intention to cut anything from teacher pay. But there was also a lot of funding cliffs that were created by one-time funding. They call it ESSER funds. We called it ARPA funds. As I've said in other budget committee meetings, that Metro did a pretty good job of not creating those funding cliffs because we knew they were one-time funds. None of the programming that was put into place is bad programming, but again, those one-time funds were never intended to create a massive burden on the taxpayer when those one-time funds ended. The $77.55 million increase is still the 4th largest increase in MNPS's budget in history, actually. So it is still a very large increase to schools' budget. I also wanted to reward our employees more than what we had. I found it abhorrent, actually, that the mayor had promised a 2% across the board and then changed his mind to a 1% across the board, making it incumbent upon them to beg for that back. And so I appreciate that the chair's substitute gives them back that extra 1% across the board that was recommended by the civil service. I wanted to go a step further, and so this substitute gives a 1.5% additional across the board, bringing that to a 2.5% across the board for all of our employees, which are our most important asset. Most of the reductions in departments came from not giving back the targeted savings from FY25. And the only way to do that was to do it fairly. And so that's why there was not one department in this substitute that I gave back that targeted savings in FY25 from FY25. What's the point of saving something one year just to give it back to them on top of an increase the next year? That makes no sense to me. So this is a 28% reduction from the proposed increase in taxes. We talk about affordable housing. This tax increase is going to increase the cost of housing. When I have a developer, a landlord that calls me and has 250 single-family homes in Antioch and numerous multifamily units, and the average increase just to break even on those single-family homes in rent is an increase of $400 per month. $250 per month for those multifamily units on average, just to break even. I think back when I was paycheck to paycheck and waiting tables and struggling. If my landlord called me and said my rent was going up $250 a month, I think I would just cry. And I think that's where a lot of our constituents are. I have elderly constituents, 101 years old, that's been in the house since 1955 when it was built, who cannot stay in the home if this property tax increases. We've got small businesses that will be impacted. Prices of everything will go up. I think it's incumbent upon us to still maintain our city services and grow in a responsible fashion, but we cannot overburden our taxpayers while doing it. And this massive increase in spending, $500 million in increase in spending, on top of a 34% tax increase 5 years ago and a 15% year-over-year operating budget increase. It's a lot of spending, and I just think we can do better. So this is where this came from. I also want to take this opportunity to thank, I was going to call you Margaret, Director Darby, that is your name, and everybody in the council office that worked so many hours. There were emails coming, in fact, yesterday, so throughout the weekend, and from our colleagues in finance. Thank you so much for working so hard on this with me. I've taken into account a lot of people's feedback on things to cut, things to not cut. I really took a scalpel to it, not a hatchet, just trying to mitigate the burdening of our taxpayers, not only our residents, but our businesses as well. So happy to answer questions, but I hope that you'll at least entertain it.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnston, for your work on this. I have a few questions, and then we'll hear from some departments about what these potential cuts could mean, and then we will open it up to our colleagues. Councilmember Johnston made the comment about fairly cutting the departments, and this question could be either for Director Darby or for Finance. Is the amount that each department cut universal? So is it like a 1% for each department, or is that amount varying per department? Yes, Director Darby, if you could.
The reductions that are in the substitute budget from the mayor's budget for the departments are primarily removing the restoration of the targeted savings and I believe that was at 1.41% from this current year's budget. There were a couple of departments, and I think there were a few extra reductions in there based on the budget modifications that were improvements from last year's budget.
Okay, thank you. So it's the targeted savings, and then some departments got hit more than that, so it wasn't a universal across the board?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mr. Pratt, if you could speak to this, I believe in one of our work sessions, it was stated that the departments, in essence, needed those targeted savings restored, and the departments that were able to continue to do the work without the targeted savings being restored, I believe that they did not get any increased funding. But can you speak to that, Mr. Pratt?
Yes. Good afternoon, Aaron Pratt, Budget Officer. So yeah, speaking to the departments departments and offices needing their restoration of targeted savings back, especially with the compensation of the pay plan, because a lot of the targeted savings were above the line, our salaries, vacancies, attrition. Departments are going to need those positions back and the funding back in order to make sure that they have enough to implement the pay plan for fiscal year 26, because they can use some of those vacancy dollars to make sure that they have enough for their overall departments. Apologies, what was the second half of that question?
In essence, the departments that didn't need their targeted savings back didn't get the extra, right?
Correct, yes. A couple of departments actually found efficiency, so they actually chose to forego their targeted savings restoration, although we asked them a couple of times. They kept saying no.
Thank you for that. And can you all speak about how this is going to impact the Budget Sustainability Fund, which this committee passed unanimously with no concerns? Can we speak to how this budget, potential budget would impact that?
Yes, Janine Reed.
My apologies.
That's okay. I was like, what, did I do something wrong? Janine Reed, Director of Finance. So yes, the budget sustainability, a change to that from the established rates that the Finance Department recommended in the mayor's budget and established in the mayor's budget. If you change that, it could be seen by the bond ratings agency and could impact our ratings. The second thing I will say about the budget sustainability, and I explained this in one of our working sessions, is that those funds are set aside for really the next 3 years. So any cut to that percentage is going to have an impact on the budget in 27 and 28. It could mean cuts in either one of those years or in both years. We did some financial modeling based off of historic growth rates in terms of expenditures as well as revenue projections, and that is how we established the budget sustainability numbers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that. And Director Reed, just for the sake of the viewing audience, this cut means less revenue for the next 3 years, which means that we will have to be impacted, not just this budget, but the following budget and the following budget based on this decision.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then could you also speak to, I know you talked a little bit about how this could potentially impact the bond ratings, but can you speak about last week's experience with our current bond ratings as they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So last week we went out, we did the water and sewer bonds as was authorized by council in April, and we were oversubscribed by 8.7 times what we were out for bid. So what that means is we were able to actually reduce our interest rate calculations and save multiple basis points on our bond issues. In some cases, we were able to save 12 and 10 basis points, which is a lot of money. In addition for that, we had done a bond tender, and present value on that bond tender, we saved over $6 million for Metro Water and Sewer. What does that mean? It means that over time, that will help keep water and sewer rates lower for our taxpayers.
Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add, last year in October when we did the GO bonds, we saved $9 million from the increase in our ratings. So that's additional savings. And we're also earning interest revenue back to Metro. This year, our estimate is somewhere around $32 million that will come back in terms of revenue from our reserves.
Thank you so very much, Director. And then could we hear from the administration on this, please?
just generally, Madam Chair?
If you all could speak on your position on this substitute.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So this proposal cuts over $54 million from public schools, over $6 million from our fire and EMS response, more than $4 million from MNPD, and it makes significant cuts to virtually every metro department that services Nashvillians, from Parks and Library to Public Health and 911. For the drastic cuts imposed by this substitute, the average homeowner will save less than $15 a month. Not per resident, per household. Most Nashvillians, I believe, would agree that, if we're looking to fund the schools that we love, the services we can rely on, the safety we deserve, that's a pretty paltry amount to be able to lose all of those things. The mayor's budget and the substitute are both built around those concepts of school service and safety, and I don't believe we should sacrifice them and still see a tax increase while losing the benefits. I'll also add that the cuts to the budget sustainability reserve that would cost us so much money will save the average household less than $3 a month.
Thank you so very much. And then lastly, if we hear from every department that the substitute is proposing to cut, we would be here for a really long time. So we're not going to do that, but I do just need to speak into the record the expenditure changes for the substitute. So this substitute would cut property loss by $3,098,000, benefits adjustments by an additional $5 million, the contingency utility increase by $525,000, the Metro Council by $57,800, the Metropolitan Clerk's Office by $188,800, the Mayor's Office by $953,500, the Department of Law by $146,900, the Planning Commission by $2,378,100, Human Resources by $376,500, the Register of Deeds by $4,500, General Services by $1,586,800, the Historical Commission by $27,600, the Office of Emergency Safety by $103,800, the Department of Emergency Communication by $1,017,200, the Finance Department by $590,400, the Assessor of Property by $567,500, the Trustee by $179,900, the County Clerk by $99,300, the Internal Audit by $28,400, the District Attorney by $171,800, the Public Defender by $639,200, the Juvenile Court Clerk by $46,000, the Criminal Court Clerk by $114,500, the Clerk and Master Chancellery by $29,800, the Juvenile Court by $260,300, the General Sessions Court by $449,000, State Trials Court by $289,900, Justice Integration Services $776,200, Criminal Justice Planning by $9,700, the Sheriff's Office by $1,637,600, the Police Department by $4,195,300, the Community Review Board by $30,300, the Fire Department and EMS Services by $6,137,700, the Economic Job Development Incentive for Dale by $500,000, the Codes Administration by $269,400, the Beer Board by $17,600, the Human Relations Commission, $292,500, the Office of Homeless Services by $255,200, the Health Department by $858,400, the Public Library by $1,074,300, the Agricultural Extension by $6,000, Parks and Recreation $1,403,800, the Arts Commission by $924,800, NDOT by $2,986,200, the GSD Fund Balance Restoration by $4,101,100, the Waste Services by $2,095,000, $2,095,200, the Information Technology Services by $1,066,600, MNPS by $54,450,000, the East Bank Development Authority, those are additions. These are additions. So it would give an additional $3 million to the East Bank Development Authority, an additional $60,161,600 to the Metro Transit Operating Expense Fund, $60,000. No, I'm seeing no's. I'm getting conflicting information. Director Darby, can you speak to that?
Those two items, the East Bank Development Authority and the Metro Transit Operating Expense Fund, those are special revenue funds. They're listed in the analysis because they are changes to the mayor's budget that are in this, they're reflected in this substitute budget, but they are simply technical changes that the finance department had offered to both substitute budgets to designate these two specific funds as special revenue funds. So we're getting taxes coming in, they go into this fund, and this allows them to be spent in the upcoming year.
Thank you. The museum study for $60,000, social services $90,800, contribution to sister cities $25,000, and Metro Family Safety $3,500. And then it is asterisks that the items that have asterisks, all or some of the changes also reflected in the chair substitute ordinance. So again, wanted to speak that into the record. Again, we do not have time for each of these departments to be able to speak to the reductions, but we would like to offer a few departments the opportunity to come to the podium to speak on what that reduction would be. Specifically, I would like to hear from MNPS first. And after we hear from MNPS, if we could hear from Fire and MNPD, and then if we have any additional departments that would like to briefly speak to it. And again, y'all, it's been a long night. I know that this budget cut could potentially be very big to your department. The biggest cut is to MNPS, so I do want to give them the opportunity to speak. For everyone else, if you could just be a little brief in your response, that would be appreciated by everybody. You are recognized. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Frida Player. I'm chair of the MNPS School Board. With the reduction, we only had a few hours to really put this together, so we don't have the very fine details, but it includes the possible reduction or elimination of 3% COLA that we are offering to our staff that we passed in our current budget this past, well, a week ago, last week. This would eliminate our MNPS Scholar Portfolio, which is the Promising Scholar Summer Program, which have regained radical gains in growth, and also for our retention for third grade retention law. It helps presides that. Textbooks, instruction materials, that would significantly reduce be able to do the big purchases, particularly for the upcoming science purchases. The school safety enhancement, it really put an end to our weapon detection systems, since that has been a new investment. And then also for our no-cost lunch for students, our Classroom Associates program, which is a new innovative way which we fill the substitute hole that we've had in our schools. And then instructional support for our employees to do PD that's helped with our test scores gains and our growth and improvement, especially since post-COVID.
Thank you so very much. Can we hear from someone from the fire department? If you can introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mark Young, Nashville Fire. These reductions would kind of cripple us in a time when the city's growing and the department has lagged behind for many years. For example, an ambulance, a reduction in an ambulance would increase call volume times across the city. Every time we can put a new ambulance in service, that's just another 911 call that availability would be immediate. These calls are increasing year after year. We will come every year asking for increases in EMS and fire. You can just imagine that we'll be here because as the city grows, we should grow. A reduction in the inspections office would be very crippling to the taxpayer and the visitor. We need to get in these buildings. We need to inspect them for life safety. So we would ask that you would support the chair's budget. I know as a previous employee representative, the employees would share in a gratitude of thank you to any time they can get an increase in their salaries. But at this time, we do not need to reduce the department. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have someone from MNPD that would like to speak? Deputy Chief Gilder, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. The way you phrased that, it was optional, so I might. Thank you. So effectively, a $4.2 million reduction to the budget that has been proposed would be a net decrease of 31 FTEs of police officer positions. And there's been discussion about increases in budget. So while there is a $21 million increase from the general fund over what was last year, those all but $100,000 of that is to continue existing services that we are already providing. The $100,000 is the funding that we need for supplies for the 9th precinct. By cutting 31 FTEs, we would effectively have to take those from across the various precincts and would probably delay opening the 9th precinct.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Can we hear from the planning department, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, a reduction of $2.378 million from planning is approximately a 14% reduction in our operating budget. The operating budget for planning department has about 7% discretionary. The rest, 93%, is in positions, salaries, and non-discretionary funding. The impact of this reduction would require the department to eliminate 16 positions, 4 positions from the housing division, and 12 positions from other divisions, plus an additional $178,000 in other expenses. The operating versus housing funds, such as barns, are seen very differently, and so all of those cuts would be from operating.
Thank you so very much. And in the respect of time, I do want to make sure we're going to come back to Councilmember Johnston. We're also going to open it up to the committee so that any committee members and anyone here in the body can speak. Were there any other departments that were here that wanted to get on the record what the reduction would do? And if so, could you just come on up to the microphone? And I'm so sorry, I can't see everybody back there. So I see some faces. I can't see everyone. So if you want to speak, if you'll just quickly come to the mic, I appreciate it. And you're recognized if you can introduce yourself in the department that you represent.
Good evening, Diana Alarcone, Department of Transportation, Multimodal Infrastructure, otherwise known as NDOT. We actually are raising and we'll be bringing before council to do a fee structure improvement. We actually recently did a fee study and found that the last time we did this was in 2003. So working with the industry, we're tiering it over 3 years. So in this, we are actually doing a fee study, so that'll drive in revenue, and we're adding people to offset and provide better services as part of that fee study. So that would be something that I cannot get rid of because they offset each other. So I would have to kill a program. I would have to look at reducing either debris pickup or reducing street sweeping. So it would have a systematic service hit to our budget at the current rate that it's established at. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing no one else at the microphone, I want to open, someone else, my apologies. Go ahead, you can introduce yourself.
Tracy Thurman with Waste Services. So potentially over $2 million in cuts for a new department that doesn't exist, that's trying to become a standalone department, that's significant because we're contractually obligated to over about 53% of that budget being comprised of our hauling contracts, our disposal contract, or recycling contract. So that amounts to, a little bit over 31 million right there just in those contracts alone. And there are other contracts that we have. So that cut is potentially going to mean a cut to about 20 positions. And that's going to be, probably increased in our miss rates and those kinds of things, as well as when it comes to our convenience centers, we'll have to evaluate where we can be able to hold all of those open or potentially close one of those. That's the impact for us.
Thank you so very much. I want to open it up to council members that would like to speak on this. Councilmember, I see Vice Chair Toombs, and I see Councilmember Quinn Evans Siegel. Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, I want to say efficiency is a good thing. It is important to look at how we spend our money and to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I just don't feel like this substitute is it. The services we provide have to keep up with the growth of the city, and it's ironic that we get criticized for not keeping up with the growth of the city, but when we try to keep up with the growth of the city, we get criticized for overspending. That doesn't make sense. I even asked for the creation of a working group, and Chair, you granted that, to look at how departments were using salary savings. Myself and other council members thought for sure we would have a gotcha moment and find all this money that was, not being used appropriately. What we found is that largely departments are robbing Peter to pay Paul. So having significant cuts to departments will decrease services. Looking at schools is another entity that's always in a catch-22. They've been criticized heavily for, the learning loss during COVID. So they got all these federal funds. We're trying to figure out what to do with them. They implemented some programs that are showing results. They've been in the top 10 fastest growing districts for the past 2 years. They are doing better than pre-COVID academic outcomes. And so these programs that they've implemented, yes, some of them were with one-time funds, but these programs are working. So this is not a time to cut resources to our students. I have 3 kids in MNPS. My youngest benefits from Promising Scholars and the Classroom Associates and the additional support in the classroom. And so we don't want to set our students back. And I've done my own analysis of my proposed tax bill, and I know Finance has done, crunched the numbers. I'll take fully funded schools for 15 every time, Alex. Like, I'm not for cutting schools at all. Just to save a few dollars. The future of our children is too important. They're the foundation of our city. So this substitute is a no-go for me.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And for clarity, you were saying that the substitute would only save you $15 a month?
$15 a month on my tax bill.
Thank you. Councilmember Quineva-Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the work my colleague put into this. I also looked at the 1.4%. I know I had a lot of people who had a lot of questions. Why are we giving 1.4% back when they didn't need it? And Finance worked really hard not to do that where it wasn't necessary. But what I learned, my gotcha moment in this working group was that we were underfunding services to a degree that it makes it very difficult to sit here in this committee and always analyze the budget, because we don't always know sitting here what dollars were spent on services and what dollars were spent on people, but we see these numbers at the end of the year, unfilled positions. Planning had a really great chart, and I've said this before and I will say this again about how we get to that bottom line number, and I wish that every department could do a chart just like planning. But of course, the people who have degrees in laying out cities are probably really good at laying out information as well. So, but for me, I heard a few things here tonight that concern me and a few things that make me hopeful about where we're going in the budget. With respect to the bond market, I'd spoken, emailed with Finance about this, and the fact that in real dollars, we saved several $1 million, but like over the life, we're talking over $15 million we saved because of our fund balance policy, which we just put into place. And when you look at that at scale and you look at the dollars that we're saving, this idea that we would somehow cut, $30 million from a fund balance that is going to, over its life, save us multiple of that seemed like not being fiscally responsible, right? We talk about not wasting money. Why would we save $30 million this year only to lose 15 every time we issue bonds for the next however many years? And then I also heard tonight that ESSER funds were one-time funds. They weren't recurring funds. But what I know as a parent is that we have systematically underfunded schools, and things like Promising Scholars. I see what that does for my nephew, who is Promising Scholar this summer. I see how those ESSER funds are used by my sister-in-law, who's a teacher. I've got 3 generations of Nashville school teachers in my family. I am a product of Nashville schools, and they have been underfunded my entire life. And to be able to sit here today and show gains, what we're telling parents if we cut that is we don't care anymore. We're going to save you $100, $200, $300 a year, but the schools are not going to be what you want to send your kids to. And I don't feel good about that, and I don't think we can do that. And so for those reasons, I can't support this substitute. I do think we have a ways to go still on how we're actually spending money and budgeting for it and making sure that we are showing people how we spend money and that we are counting for services as services and headcount as headcount, because that is an incredibly important part when it comes to transparency in government and our budget. But I can't support this substitute with these cuts today because it's just too much of a burden on the actual lives of the people here.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there anyone else that seeks to be recognized? Councilmember Druffel, then we'll go to Councilmember Harrell. Councilmember Druffel, you're recognized.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And this is a tough one because been a huge advocate of Dr. Battle and the school board and all their success. I think in isolation, if we were just to make a increase in taxes, it's one thing. But in a recent meeting I had, 2 meetings of 85 to 100, my constituents, I'm hearing we got inflation at such and such for the last 3 years, interest rates, and all those added up with a tax increase, a significant tax increase in my neighborhood, is really causing a pretty significant burden. And I know we are talking about the needs of the city, but I know a lot of my constituents are now looking at it's just a little bit too expensive to live here. And these aren't the people that have just moved to my neighborhood. We have a lot of people that are buying, a lot, building a $3 to $4 million house. But underlying all that, 90% is still the people, the seniors, the people that have families that are really struggling in every way. And then we add more taxes and it's a lot more than $15 in my neighborhood per month. And when you start to add that, and we didn't ask for that, right? We are the people that just happened to buy a $290,000 house and live there, and now they're $3 to $4 million houses, inflating that price point. So what's happened is a lot of people are struggling, and the people that have raised and sort of the foundation of Nashville are looking now to move away because they just simply can't afford what a lot of people that can afford to move into. So for me, it's a real struggle because I truly believe in our city. I believe in our school. And I've been a strong advocate, I think, for the last 5 years of aspirational funding every time. What I struggle with now is it's not the courage, but it's recognizing my constituents and their concerns. And that's where I'm coming from, and more anecdotal than giving you all the details. So I still think this is directionally we need to make and recognize that we need to do something to minimize taxes. And I believe this was one of the best suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Druffel. Councilmember Harrell, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for acknowledging me. So I oppose this substitute, this substitute. My first thought or my fear is how it impacts Antioch. As a council member that represents Antioch District 8, there's already concerns that we're not receiving certain opportunities or needs when it comes to infrastructure. And these increases within the budget gives us opportunity to continue to fight for those or receive those items or needs in regards to services that the constituents have been asking for. And it is my fear that if we slice or we're reducing each of these departments, that's going to be increased wait times for MMPD. We already have that issue. It's going to be increased times for fire and EMS. Like, these are already concerns that we have in Antioch, and by decreasing these issues or decreasing these items, it's going to increase those issues that we already have opportunities to improve in. I oppose.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be recognized? I'll just give a super brief comment. Councilmember Johnson, thank you for working on this because I know how hard it is to work on this, and thank you to the council staff for all the work that I know that they had to put into it over the weekend in finance and reviewing it. And again, Councilmember, I absolutely know how much work this is to do this. So appreciate you taking a stab at it. I'll just quickly share that my concerns are that, and we didn't have time to hear from every department. We still have agenda items to hit tonight. So I wanted to respect everybody's time, but we did have more departments that wanted to speak. But my concern is just that this would destabilize our government for such a small reduction. And I know that 16 cents in some places, like in Councilmember Druffel's district, that may be a more significant place. But, we're talking about if your house is $423,000, you're saving less than $15 a month. If your house is valued at $557,000, you're saving less than $20 a month. So it's destabilizing the government for such a small reduction. and we talked about this a whole lot during the work sessions. You get to a point where the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and we just cannot, I can't wrap my mind around that much of a reduction, as well as the concerns about putting bond ratings at risk, as well as the instability to the budget sustainability fund. So, Councilmember Johnston, would you like to speak again before we call for the vote?
Yes, please. Thank you. I could respond to all of these things. When I sat down and started this, my goal was to piss off departments equally, and I think I've done that. So there's equity in that. I want to reiterate, there's no cuts to any department. There are reductions to the increase, the proposed increase. If you choose to reduce services in order to pay for something else that the funding was increased, that's on the department heads. But no department has been cut. If you want to reduce the tax levy, you have to reduce spending. If you want to reduce the tax levy more than what I have done, and I would love to do it because this is going to hurt, it just doesn't hurt as bad as the mayor's budget or the chair's substitute. But it still hurts. If you want to do that, you've got to cut more. So you see the response in reducing, even minimally, these astronomical increases to these departments. Oh God, it's just, we're catastrophizing everything. Somehow we made it through last year. I don't know how we did it. It's amazing. This is an alternative. Nobody likes to increase taxes 39% in the GSD and 26% in the USD. On the heels of 34% tax increase last year, on the heels of an appraisal that is going to increase people's tax liability regardless of this tax increase or not. This is huge, and it's an overburdening to every single person that lives here. I'm concerned about my elderly. I'm concerned about our working families. I'm concerned about Antioch. I'm concerned about our small businesses. And so that's where this came from. That's where this work came from. Again, thank the council office and finance for all of their hard work on this. I know this isn't going to pass because we don't have the capacity, apparently, in this body to reduce spending. We just don't. We can't justify it. That's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate for everybody at home that's going to get this tax bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnston. Vice Chair, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify one thing, because we hear a lot of talk from constituents about the 34% tax increase that was in 2020, which was actually the year before reappraisal year. Reappraisal was in 2021. And as everyone knows, the certified tax rate is a revenue neutral rate. And so the tax rate actually went down in 2021. And I just wanted maybe finance or someone from the administration or Director Darby can provide some clarification on that, because there was a 34% increase in 2020, but then that rate went down so that it was the revenue neutral rate. And now we're doing, for the third time in 20 years, raising taxes.
Would we like that administration, basically Councilmember Toombs is saying, yeah, in 2020, we did raise it up to the 34%, but in 2021, we dropped it back down to the revenue neutral rate. So we're not continuing to be at the 34% increase. So I believe she was correcting the narrative from Councilmember Johnston. So would anyone like to speak to that between Finance Administration or Director Darby? You are recognized.
I hope I can address it. So you are correct. When we have a reappraisal, we have to come down to a revenue neutral rate. So in at the last reappraisal, we came down to a revenue neutral rate, which lowered the rate. It doesn't mean that everybody paid less in taxes that year because they had an appraisal, but that rate was reset, and that's the rate that we've been at. Then we had a reappraisal this year, and we have a new revenue neutral rate, which lowers the rate. The mayor's budget, as well as Chair Porterfield's proposed substitute, increases that rate from the CTR, which allows us to generate that additional revenue. From that, Councilwoman Johnston is taking a reduction to that. So the tax rate can fluctuate based on the reappraisal cycle. So when we have a reappraisal, we will always look at that new revenue neutral rate. It does come down. It's what's kept our rate historically low. It's low compared to our other peer cities, not only in Tennessee, outside of Tennessee, but that's how that revenue neutral rate works. If we leave it lower, it's not to imply that everybody will have a reduction, because if your appraisal goes up, but what Councilwoman Toombs is referring to is we did a tax increase one year outside of an appraisal year. So that is just a flat out tax increase. Everybody paid an increase. It was the next year that it dropped.
Thank you. Councilmember Toombs, you are recognized.
And thank you, Chair, for that. Just a couple more things for the sake of the viewing audience. I think that this body has shown an appetite for restricting spending. Last year, we did do the targeted savings, but that was something that came about through months of work from finance and our budget office to work with departments on what that looked like. To come at the 11th hour and slash departments significantly without any discussion as to what that looks like is irresponsible. And I always like to point out, I know that we are the elected officials, but we're also taxpayers as well. We're parents, we're daughters, sons, cousins, uncles. I have an elderly father who lives here. I have 3 young children who are increasingly expensive. So I'm not looking forward to paying a higher tax bill, but I know we have to provide adequate services for a city our size. And so I don't want folks who are watching to think that we do not empathize with increased expenses, particularly on a fixed income. My father's on a fixed income. So there is empathy there. And I think that we started at the beginning of this, once the council got the budget, I think that there was a strong desire within the body to try to reduce the rate. And several folks, myself included, I know you as well, Chair, looked at the numbers to try to see where we could cut. And as you like to say, the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze. But I think that efficiency is always a goal when you're dealing with taxpayer dollars, and that's not a goal that's going to go away, even though we're looking at a tax increase this year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Toombs. Is there anyone else that would like to be recognized? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. We have 2 in favor. All those opposed, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against, and all those not voting, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, not voting. So the substitute fails. 2 in favor, 5 against, and 3 not voting. We now need a motion on the chair's substitute with the approved amendments, which is Amendment 1, that was Councilwoman Sepulveda's amendment. Amendment 2, which was Chair Gadd's amendment. Amendment 8, which was Chair Toombs' amendment, the late filed Amendment 1 for the spay and neuter funding, which was Councilmember Stiles, and then the late filed Safe Bar Amendment. It needs to be a motion on the bill as substituted and amended with the following amendments that I just stated. It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor. I'm running out of places to write this. All right, those in opposition, please raise your hand. 1 in opposition, and those not voting, please raise your hand. 1 not voting. That is a total of 9, and we have more than 9 people. So let's try that again. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor. All those in opposition, please raise your hand. 1, 2 in opposition. Okay, that changed. And then those that are not voting, raise your hand. 1 not voting. So we have 7 in favor, 2 against, and 1 not voting on the substitute, the chair substitute. All right, going back to the top of the agenda, I believe we could take up RS 2025-1258, a resolution adopting a new pay plan for general employees of Metropolitan Government and National Davidson County, excluding employees of the Board of Health, Board of Education, and the Police and Fire Departments, effective July 1, 2025, sponsors Porterfield and Hill. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? Okay, we need someone to move my amendment, please. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. My amendment is to increase the pay plan by the 1% across the board. Is there any discussion on my amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in favor. Those against raising employee pay by an additional 1%, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none. Those not voting, please raise your hand. 1 not voting, so 9 in favor, 0 against, and 1 not voting. Councilmember Johnston, are you going to move your amendment? No, okay, thank you. The next item is RS 2025-1259, a resolution adopting a new pay plan for employees in Metropolitan Departments of Police and, we have to move the bill as substituted. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to rush us through here. Can I get a motion for the bill as substituted? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could get either someone from the administration or Director Darby or someone from Metro HR just to talk about the market adjustments that are also on top of the 1% and the other things.
Yes.
I think it's helpful for people to know that about that piece of it.
Okay, thank you. I see Director Hall that's coming back. Director Hall, you're recognized.
Just the short version.
Yeah. Thanks, Shannon Hall, HR Director. I'm going to go back. I have to switch the numbers in my head with the 1% across the board, which matches the Civil Service Commission recommendation. Employees will receive between a 4. It was 3 and 9 with the mayor's filed, between a 4% and a 10% increase, kind of gradated. Those lower in the range will get a higher increase percentage-wise than those that are higher in the range. Just a reminder that percentages don't always work the same because those people are in lower pay. So even if you get a lower increase higher in the range, the dollar amounts may not be a 1-for-1, right? Because they're making a higher pay for that same job. That'll be across all the different schedules of all the pay plans, general government, police and fire, and health.
Thank you so very much. Councilmember Allen, did you have anything else?
Thank you. No, so just, we talked about the 1% across the board and the 2% merit, and then there's this other increase underneath it for the market rate study. So it's actually even more than that for many, many people. And I just want to make sure people know that.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Allen. I appreciate that. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? All right, we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people, Director Darby. All right, so it passes 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2025-1258 as amended with the First Amendment. The next item is RS 2025-1259, a resolution adopting a new pay plan for employees for the Metropolitan Departments of Police and Fire, effective July 1, 2025. Sponsors Porterfield, Evans, and Hill. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Can I get someone to move the Amendment 1? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. This amendment is for the 1% across the board that we've just heard explanations for. Is there any additional, would anyone like to speak on it? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries. 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for the amendment. Can I get a motion for the resolution as amended? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded with the resolution as amended. Would anyone like to, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Anyone not voting? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The next item is RS 2025-1260, a resolution adopting a new pay plan for employees of the Metropolitan Board of Health effective July 1, 2025. Sponsors Hill, Porterfield, Evans, and Hill. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Can someone move Amendment 1? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Amendment 1 increases the employee pay by 1% across the board, as we previously discussed. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Amendment 1 passes 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Can I get a motion to move the bill as amended? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The next item that was not on the consent agenda is RS 2025-1300, a resolution appropriating the amount of $17,810,300 from the General Fund Reserve Fund for the purchase of equipment and building repairs for various departments of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, sponsors Porterfield and Hill. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Can we get a brief explanation from finance on what this is, or Director Darby? Director, you are recognized.
This is the, what is colloquially known as the 4% fund. This is departments that will be receiving funding based on the lists that are attached to the resolution. This is for building repairs and equipment use.
Thank you so very much. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Been so inundated with budget that I didn't get through this as thoroughly as I normally do. Is there any funding for Nashville General to address any of their capital needs?
Thank you, Vice Chair Toombs. We are, would you like to speak to it, the administration table?
Thank you, Chair. There is not any 4% allocated to the hospital, to Nashville General.
Do you want to?
Vice Chair Toombs, you're recognized.
I think Director Reed is coming to add something.
Okay, Director Reed, you're recognized.
Hello. We have been working with Nashville General on their 4% information. They are working on putting that together. As I've spoke before, KPMG is there and actually doing some of that financial work right now. So they are fine tuning that, and I expect that they would submit something at the 4% in FY26.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Vice Chair Toombs. Is there anyone else that would like to be recognized? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The next item that was not on the consent agenda is RS 2025-1302, a resolution approving amendments 1 and 2 to a grant from the Tennessee Housing Development Agency to the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Action Commission to be used for the Emergency Rental Assistance Eviction Prevention Program in accordance with the purpose set forth in Section 3201 of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to provide financial assistance and housing stability services to eligible tenants. Sponsors Porterfield, Evans, Welch, Swore, and Allen. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Cortez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question for the Metro Action Commission. I believe we spoke about this earlier in the year, but is this program being ended by the federal government? And what is the end date for this program with these funds?
Thank you. Do we have someone from MAC that can speak to this? If you could introduce yourself, please. You are recognized.
Yes, ma'am. Marvin Cox, Community Outreach Director, Metro Action Commission. The funds will be wrapping up toward the end of July. So the funds are ending by the end of the year. So we're wrapping up funding at this particular time.
Okay, so this was the program that we spoke about before. And
yes, sir.
This program will be completed by the end of July this year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And no later than the end of the program year.
We have a clarification from finance. Okay. If you could introduce yourself.
Thanks. I just want to make sure, when we were talking about the eviction right to counsel earlier?
No, this was a meeting.
I'm sorry.
A prior meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the amendment we just.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Ms. Wiggins, because I also thought that was the conversation.
I apologize. I'm tired. I should have been more precise.
No worries. It's all good. Okay. Did you have something else, Councilmember? Okay.
I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are we still a 9, 6, 7, 8, 9? Yes, okay. Vice Chair Toombs, you're recognized.
I didn't want to speak.
Okay. My apologies. All right, the next item that was not on the consent agenda is item number 24, RS 2025-1316, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department to allow to compromise and settle a personal injury claim of Lisa Bunkowski against the Metropolitan Government of National Davidson County in the amount of $157,165.44, and that said amount to be paid out of the self-insured liability fund, sponsor Porterfield. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple questions. The first being, it looked like she had suffered somewhere between $57,000 and $63,000 in damages, but the settlement was for $157,000. So I was just curious how we came up with that number.
Thank you so very much. Do we have someone? Okay, we have someone that's coming up to speak on it. Thank you. If you could just introduce yourself, please.
Representing.
If you could speak into the mic, please.
Sure. I'm Jeff Campbell, representing the Metropolitan Government.
Are you with Metro Legal or with Metro Government? Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
So basically, we often see 3 times meds awarded in cases like these. So if she was awarded 3 times her meds in this case, she would get roughly $180,000. And she felt her case was worth $157,000 through her attorney, through our negotiations. And our settlement committee thought that as well. We thought that if we go to trial, that we're probably looking at least $180,000, if not $200,000.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
I thought the details of this were kind of haunting, that there were over 8 hub requests in like a, I don't know, what is that? It's math, and we've done a lot of math, 14-month period. That could be totally wrong math. Somebody could correct the number of months there, but from February 2019 to June 2020, and that one of them specifically said someone will break an ankle at the crosswalk, and then someone apparently did break an ankle. That's a lot of hub requests for one pothole. So I'm just curious, how are we tracking these multiple requests when we're getting stuff in like this that are subjecting us to liability?
Thank you so very much. Do we have someone from NDOT that can speak to that? And Director, you are recognized.
Thank you. I cannot speak for when this happened because it was before I was here. But I can tell you that when hub requests come in, they're coming directly over to us and we're responding. As of right now, we're actually out there doing pothole fills that we get in through hub requests within 24 to 48 hours. So we are on top of a lot of things. But this was in 21, so it was before me. But now with the new system that we got set up, where we're set up in work orders, hub comes over, it creates a work order that's given out on a daily basis because we're actually operating on those type of requests 7 days a week and tracking it.
Thank you, Director. Oh, Councilmember Evans Siegel, my apologies, you're recognized.
Chair, I feel like I was turned the wrong way and I missed something. I think that answers my question. I guess the only other question I have is, like, did we go back before that system and see if there were any areas that had multiple requests?
Okay, I missed the joke too.
Right, so you're recognized.
Yes, ma'am, we've actually gone back in the past and checked all the requests to make sure that we have fulfilled them. And also when legal does receive something, we will actually go out and make sure that we've made the correction as well.
Thanks.
Thank you so very much, Director. Did that answer your question? Thank you, Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just another question for Director Alarcon. Do we still have that big machine like a toaster on wheels that fixes things so they don't pop back out again? I'm just confused about why that fix didn't stay fixed.
Well, again, that was when it happened, it was in 21, so I can't speak to that, but you're referring to the infrared. And there are situations where we do use the infrared, and then there's situations that the infrared will not work. So that it really varies, but I will tell you that the crosswalk is repaired and it is fixed, and it has been for a very long time.
Okay, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Did anyone else want to speak to this? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Excuse me, any opposed, nay? Any abstentions or anyone not voting? All right, motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Next, we have late file resolution. This is on page 14, late file resolution by Porterfield, a resolution to approve a first amendment to 3 grant contracts for constructing affordable housing between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission and certain nonprofit organizations. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So this one involves a organization that was going to do a senior housing project in my district, Awake Nashville. Their funds are being returned. And just wanted to get some background on that. Are they still going to be able to retain the property that was rezoned as part of their efforts to do the senior housing project? Like, I'm surprised that we're at this point, so just want some more information.
Thank you, Vice Chair Toombs. Do we have someone from the administration or finance that could speak to that, or the Barnes Fund? You're recognized, Ms. Wiggins.
Chair, I will do my best. I talked to Director Hubbard earlier today. I thought there was going to be somebody here. So the contract amendment is relinquishing the funds because they are ARP funds and they do not believe they can actually spend the funds within the allotted timeframe. But the contract does allow them to keep the properties for development. They are not precluded from coming back to Barnes for funding in the future. This is not a negative reflection of anything they've done. They just know that they cannot utilize the funds within the timeframe that is allowed within ARP. So the $3 million was part of an ARP award to the Barnes Fund. The Barnes Fund has those funds. The $3 million will go back to the Barnes Fund and can be used in the next funding cycle. So that is a little bit what Councilwoman Allen was referring to earlier about this new $3 million. It's really just being able to reallocate $3 million that was already sitting within Barnes. They're back to the properties. I asked the question, and if you look within the contract amendment, there are a lot of safety nets and safeguards that the property will still be used for senior housing. They can't sell the property. It would revert back to Metro. If they build something that is not senior housing, it reverts back to Metro. There are a lot of safeguards, safety rails, whatever you want to call that, protect the use of the property for only senior housing. If it doesn't get developed for that, it would come back to Metro.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins. Councilmember Toombs, would you like to be recognized again?
That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The next item is item number 26, a late file resolution by Porterfield and Gadd, a resolution accepting an in-kind grant from the sister cities of Nashville to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to fund a commissioned art mural on the exterior side of the Morgan Park Community Center, including future maintenance costs. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Two more late file items. Agenda item number 27, late file resolution by Porterfield and Gadd, a resolution appropriating a total of $1,526,540 from the Nashville Public Library to various nonprofit organizations for the provision of free and high quality after school and summer programming through the Library's Nashville After Zone Alliance after school and out of school time coordinating system. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. The last late file item is a late file resolution by Porterfield and Gadd, a resolution approving an amendment 1 to grant contracts with various nonprofit organizations for the provision of free and high quality out of school programs through the Nashville After Zone Alliance. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? Motion carries 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Bills on second reading, BL 2025-846, ordinance amending Title II from the Metropolitan Code of Laws authorizing the creation of a downtown central business improvement district and appointing a corporation to act as an advisory board to the district with the necessary powers and authority to carry out the purposes and intent of the district. Sponsors Coopin, Johnston, Webb, Hancock, Nash, and Huffman. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Coopin, you're recognized.
I'd like to ask the committee to defer to the next meeting. Can I make a brief comment?
You sure can.
Thank you, Chair. July 15th is going to be the public hearing and third reading. We needed to defer anyway. Obviously, we had a long, extensive discussion about the budget, so wanted to make sure we had space for that. And this, some questions have come up. A lot of great support for it, but we've been having some productive meetings around a couple questions. I know some members of the body also wanted to ask myself and others questions. So respectfully ask that we defer this to this second reading to next meeting to give us a little bit of time and then pass it on third. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. Can I get a motion for a 1 meeting deferral? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the 1 meeting deferral? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions or anyone not voting? The deferral passes 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Councilmember, to be clear, you did not want to move the amendment today, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you so very much. So that is on the deferral, everyone, not on the amendment. The last item that we have is BL 2025-834, an ordinance establishing the tax levy in the General Services District for the fiscal year 2025-2026 and declaring the amount required for the annual operating budget of the Urban Services District pursuant to Section 6.07 of the Metropolitan Charter, sponsored Porterfield. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. One opposed. Are there any abstentions? One abstention, so that's 7. 2 abstentions, so that is 3 minus 9, so that is 6 in favor. That is 1 against and 2 not voting on the tax levy. And with that, colleagues, meeting adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.